Naidu reports.
After spending more than 2 weeks behind bars, Nkosi, whose name featured prominently at the Madlanga Commission, will return to the dock this morning for the continuation of his bail application. Last week, through an affidavit submitted to the court, Nkosi said that he should be granted bail and that he intends to plead not guilty as the charges against him have been fabricated. However, the state has opposed his bail application, saying that the evidence against him clearly shows that he is involved in protecting criminals involved in serious and violent crimes.
Meanwhile, suspended Tshwane Chief Financial Officer Gareth Mnisi will this morning return to testify before the Commission in Pretoria. He is accused of tender manipulation in the procurement of security services for the city of Tshwane. Mnisi has denied financially benefiting from security companies doing business with the city. Sibahle Mota reports.
3 security companies contracted by the city of Tshwane are under scrutiny at the Madlanga Commission. They include Gubi's 85 Solutions, Triotic Protection Services, and Ngapesheya Security. Mnisi has distanced himself from all 3, stating that he has never personally benefited from any of them. Gubi's 85 Solutions, owned by Kelvin Mahlangu, received the lion's share of the multi-million rand security tender. Triotic Protection Services has been linked to ANC Tshwane chairperson and former regional secretary Eugene Modise. Ngapesheya Security is owned by Bheki Nkosi, who is linked to Sergeant Fani Nkosi.
And finally, US President Donald Trump says his representatives will attend peace talks in Islamabad in Pakistan this week. The talks aimed at ending the US-Israel war on Iran come as America confirmed its forces operating in the Gulf of Oman enforced their naval blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, firing on and seizing an Iranian-flagged cargo vessel. Iran has vowed to retaliate. Joanne reports.
The government-controlled Iranian news agency posted on X that reports of a second round of talks with the United States in Islamabad were false, and that excessive demands, frequent shifts in position, and the US naval blockade, among other issues, had hindered progress in the negotiations. The Iranian agency said the outlook for constructive talks remained bleak. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif said on X that his country remained fully committed to its role as an honest facilitator. With both sides accusing the other of ceasefire violations, the truce appears increasingly tenuous, with neither side appearing ready to back down.
Recapping the top story, senior ANC officials, including the party's President Cyril Ramaphosa, are this morning expected to hold a media briefing at Luthuli House in Johannesburg on the ANC's local government action plan. For SAfm News, I am Anne Musa.
Do great solutions start with good conversation? SAfm, leading the conversations that move us.
Investing shouldn't feel risky. It should give you security and good returns. Earn up to 7.25% interest per annum with an Absa Cash Invest Tracker for an investment of 100,000 rands or more. Your capital is guaranteed with immediate access to your funds. That's minimum risk, maximum benefit. Absa Private Banking customers can invest from just R1. Open via the Absa Banking app, a branch, a private banker, or 0860 111 515. Your story matters. Absa is an authorized financial services provider. T's and C's apply.
Makoti Down Products is a proudly South African family business, started more than 30 years ago with 12 geese and a piece of material. Makoti manufactures duvets, pillows, sleeping bags, and high-quality Egyptian cotton linen. Our down products are suitable for people with dust mite allergies and come with a lifelong guarantee. And we offer a nationwide cleaning service for all your feather and down products. Visit us at makoti.co.za or call us on 041 992 2395. For quality down, Makoti Down.
9:08 here on the Daily Discourse. Good morning and welcome to your Monday edition of the program. I'm Joanne Joseph. Great to be with you. I hope you had a wonderful weekend and you're raring to go as you've begun this new week. Johannesburg is a little gloomy today, but other parts of the country have experienced worse weather, and that's something we're going to be talking about this morning. Remember, you can get hold of us. We're having a conversation on the open line, as we always do at this time of the morning. The studio line 086 000 2030. The WhatsApp line 0614 104 107. Keep your voice notes short. And of course, you can listen on the radio. You can listen on DSTV channel 814. You can also live stream from our website, or you can actually watch what is going on in studio, and you can do that on Facebook, on X, formerly Twitter, and of course YouTube. Lovely to have you with us this morning. The team is out in force. Melissa and Ginewe taking your calls as they produce the show. Mondli is our sound person today, and Busi is behind the camera. So the team is waiting to hear from you. Two key Ekurhuleni figures appearing in court this morning. We understand one is a senior administrator, the other is a high-placed police member. The reason we're not naming them on this show is that they haven't appeared in court yet, but you may already have a clue as to who they are. We're hoping to go there live in a short while. Floods in Cape Town. Gosh, the visuals coming out of there are really awful. It looks really cold and extremely wet. And sadly, of course, it's always those in the informal settlements who don't have these permanent, strong structures who come off worst in these sorts of weather events. And so we're hoping to connect with the gift of the givers in just a short while. They're the ones who are, among other people, reaching out to those affected, and they are trying to bring relief in that area. From 10 to 11 on the show, we're highlighting an issue that is very similar to Life Esidimeni in many ways, and I do want your feedback on this after we have introduced this issue to you. Mental health patients from the Talisman Foundation, that is based in southern Johannesburg, may have to be moved from this facility that has seemingly looked after them very well over the decades. Now, when I say that there are comparisons being made with Life Esidimeni, there are lots of NGOs that are coming out and saying, let's be careful. This has happened before. The consequences have been dire. Let's make sure it does not happen again. And so this is the reason that we are letting you know about this and spreading the word. We need to keep an eye to make sure that if there are relocations to other NGOs or other facilities, that this is done in accordance with the law, and that the needs, medical, emotional, psychological and otherwise, of those residents are taken care of. We cannot allow another Esidimeni to take place. And as you know, as members of the public, as the media, we, as others are doing, need to keep a very close eye on this issue. And then we're moving abroad a little later on in the show. We're asking, is American President Donald Trump losing friends at a rate of knots? It certainly looks like it. Lots of his former allies seem to be turning their backs on him, and many of them strangely appear to be from the right wing in particular. We're going to find out more about Trump's changing fortunes from veteran diplomat Brooks Spector after 11 o'clock. Love to hear from you. Make use of the studio line and the WhatsApp line. Let's have a chat on the Daily Discourse.
Call SAfm now on 086 000 2032.
All right. So one of the other big issues that we are looking at this hour, the bail application of Sergeant Fani Nkosi, is about to get underway. That is happening at the Pretoria Magistrates Court as we speak. And I'm actually looking at the visuals on SABC News right now. We see people arriving for that court hearing, and police are also out in force there. And as you know, the background to the story is an interesting one, because the sergeant himself is part of that policing unit in Gauteng, whose house was raided, right, a few weeks ago. You may remember that he appeared at the Madlanga Commission, and then shortly after that, there was a raid on his house, and they found lots of evidence that they say will work against him in that house. They found, for example, police dockets that were linked to quite high-profile robberies, for example, and other crimes that were allegedly committed. And so that is the one concern. There were firearms in the house. I understand that a few of them were secured, but a number of them were not secured. They also found 50,000 rand under his mattress, right? So these are all things that are going to come into play. And they were not able to listen to his bail application before this. So that is going to, that took place a week later, and that is going to resume in the Pretoria Magistrates Court this morning. I'm really very interested to see how all of this plays out, because as I said to you a few weeks ago, we're watching how quickly things are starting to happen since the start of the Madlanga Commission. All of a sudden, we've got suspensions, we've got arrests. Somebody is taking this commission rather seriously. Of course, all of these matters will have to be reinvestigated, but that evidence has not gone to waste. Some of that evidence will form the basis of any kind of investigation that takes place from this time on. Kathy ran a story early this morning about the Road Accident Fund, and the fact that foreigners, in fact foreigners of all kinds, people who've come into the country who don't have papers even, are actually permitted, if they are involved in an accident, to claim from the Road Accident Fund. And many of you have come back responding to that, and I would like to play some of your voice notes right now, one of you in particular on the RAF claims.
Good morning, Sis J. Mbongo Sundisa Mbuyisa ye. You see, the people who are governing this country, they are not putting the country first. They are not patriotic. The chaos that they keep opening for foreigners in this country is destroying this country and its resources. How on earth do they allow the foreigners to be eligible to claim for RAF? Why can't the parliamentarians amend their rules and regulations and exclude foreigners? Because in their countries, you don't get this treatment that they are busy giving to them. You cannot claim RAF, you can't go to their clinics, but here millions and millions of monies are being spent on the medication that must be given to foreigners. Now RAF, wake up and smell the coffee.
All right, thank you for that. Keep those messages coming. And I mean, when you talk about destroying the resources in this country, I think we must be a little bit careful about that, because I think Songezo Zibi was interviewed a little bit earlier on, the parliamentarian, and one of the points he made was that only 2 to 3% of the revenue from the Road Accident Fund accounts for people from other countries who've been involved in accidents and have claimed from the fund. So I mean, to say that it's destroying the resources, it happens to be a very small proportion. But remember, I mean, if you wonder why South Africa leans towards this kind of legislation, and why we lean towards supporting people who've come into the country from other countries, it's because we're also party to the Geneva Convention, right? The Geneva Convention talks about migrants coming into our country and the kind of support that we are required to give them as people who've come into our country and who are seeking protection within our borders as asylum seekers, refugees and the like. And so that has to be taken into account when laws like this are made or when policies like this are designed. One of you wants to comment on the Judge Mbenenge matter. Yes, it has reared its head again. As of last week, we heard that initially, as you remember, the tribunal that looked into allegations of sexual harassment allegedly committed by the Eastern Cape Judge President Mbenenge, had decided that no, it was consensual flirtation that took place between him and Miss Mengo, who brought the complaint against him. However, they did say at the end of their hearings that he was guilty of misconduct. Following that, the JSC looked at this again, the Judicial Service Commission, and last week they came out saying, this wasn't just misconduct, this was gross misconduct. And gross misconduct obviously has other implications, because it means that a sitting judge can be impeached if he's found guilty of gross misconduct. So let's listen to what you had to say about that.
Good morning, JJ. I'm Takatayo in Mangwevin location, Landi Kofiwawa. This thing of Judge Selby Mbenenge, to me, doesn't hold water. Yes, I so wish if someone is being harassed sexually by any person in his office, I so wish that thing can be divulged as soon as possible. I'm not happy when something is going to be divulged after maybe 5 years. To me, it's like maybe there is something that you didn't agree with that person. Now you decide now to defame him. I so wish even the judges now to employ a male assistant other than the female, because really this thing of defaming people to me is very touching.
So this is, remember that people are working according to the law here, right? It's not women defaming men and the like. It's people are working according to the law. The law says. And this is really important when it comes to sexual harassment. The law is designed in a certain way. It has a group of people that it has designated vulnerable people, right? And among those definitions, you've got black women. And this may have been one of the serious faults with the initial investigation, Tagatayo, in that that the commission, or the tribunal, I should say, did not actually look at this case within the constraints of the law around this. They did not look at Ms. Mengo as a person falling into that designated group. Had they done that, their treatment of the matter might have been quite different, right? You might have ended up with a situation where they would have said, oh yes, the onus is not on her to prove that sexual harassment took place. The onus actually is on the judge himself to show that he did not commit sexual harassment in any way. One of you is talking about this impeachment, Ramaphosa impeachment being rejected. Let's just listen into that.
Good morning, Joanne. I see on the news that Parliament is rejecting the ATM's application for the process of impeachment of Ramaphosa amidst the IPID report. Parliament has already rejected it. Can you guys pursue the reasons? And who is Parliament? Because Parliament cannot be the Speaker. I mean, all the MPs that are there, they make up Parliament. So can you guys pursue the reasons why the application is rejected? Because Ramaphosa needs to answer.
Teresa, thank you so much for that. Keep the messages coming. I mean, I hear you, particularly after the release of that draft of the IPID report. I think a lot more questions are being asked. Well, Postbank is improving your banking experience as part of the April card replacement rollout for social grant beneficiaries using SASSA Gold cards. From the 13th of April until further notice, Postbank sites inside Checkers, ShopRite, USave, Pick n Pay, Boxer and Spar will not assist with lost or stolen cards or PIN resets. Postbank apologizes for the inconvenience. You can still access your money through available channels. For help, call 0800 53 54 55. Postbank will never ask for your PIN or OTP. Postbank, an authorized financial services provider.
SABC2 is bringing the heat. New shows, new faces, and stories that hit home like the one I'm in. It's called Pimville, and that's where you can catch me, Gege Mputi, every Monday to Friday, 9 p.m. sharp. Live in every beat, the pulse of SA.
The Daily Discourse on SAfm, weekday mornings from 9 to 12.
Joanne Joseph here on the Daily Discourse. It is 22 minutes past 9. We're taking your calls 086 000 2032. JCK from Musina is on the line to us. You want to talk about the RAF, JCK? Good morning.
Hey, Joe, are you well?
I'm so well, thanks. Go ahead, JCK.
Man says, Joey, the Constitution needs total overhaul. You know, it's like that Constitution, the illegal immigrants which are border campers have got more benefits than the citizens of the country. Let's start with the basics. Says Joey, to be in a foreign country without proper documents, it's a crime on its own. So which means those people, illegal immigrants, are criminals. You understand? So now RAF is giving them benefits. Where are we going? Where are we going? And it doesn't happen anywhere in the world whereby illegal immigrant can benefit. No, it can't be. So, I mean, the people who have drawn or have made the constitution, they are compromising us gravely. It can't be. It can't be. Those illegal immigrants are criminals. They should be charged for that. Before we go into that, let me rest my case for now, Joey, or do you have something to ask?
No. I'm interested in your assertions. First of all, that the whole constitution needs to be overhauled, because you disagree with part of the law in regard to this, and that sort of nowhere else does this happen. When you are party to a statute in regard to refugees, asylum seekers, and so on, it does actually put pressure on you as a country that is a party to that to look at your laws through a different lens. So I'm not defending it, but I'm saying this is something that is being taken into account when these laws are formulated and when these policies are formulated. I mean, why would you want to overhaul the entire constitution because you don't agree with one law or one policy?
It's not one. About 3/4 of those things that are reflected in the constitution, they just please the big criminals, you can name it, whoever. That is Geneva law which we are talking about. We as South Africans, we just signed for something that we didn't understand, that tomorrow is going to bite us. You understand? They just signed in Geneva law. Which other country did they ever sign that one?
There are
other country in Africa.
No. Yes? There are plenty of, I'll actually check that for you, but there are plenty of countries that have signed up to the Geneva Convention. And the fact that we didn't understand it as citizens, we've elected leaders who are supposed to be able to understand and formulate law, right? And they knew what they were signing up for. And that is why we are in a position where we have to think about this when we design laws and policies. Thank you. Always good hearing from you, TCK.
You're welcome, Sis Joey.
Thank you. Lowered Lowered, you coming to us from where? I've completely forgotten for the moment. Tell us where you are, Lowered. Oh, Lowered is not on the line yet. Sorry, it's Parks in Cape Town. Sorry about that, Parks. I believe your weather is awful in Cape Town, has been for the weekend and continues today, I understand.
Yes, good morning, Joe, and trusting you well. Yes, we've had very bad weather conditions as of from Friday up until today. Yes, and it's unfortunate that some of the areas that are, I could say, less resourced or have less access to municipal resources are facing the brunt of this. To mention a few, your areas in Khayelitsha, Danone, and to have actually gone through floods, and there's also some of them that are in the more urban peripheries who've also experiencing flooding due to poor drain management systems. But yes, we've had very bad weather conditions, and it's only now that it's starting to clear up, but it looks like later on in the afternoon it might continue to rain as it has been. But to get to the main issue is that it's really disheartening where politicians such as Helen Zille are on an electioneering campaign in Johannesburg for the mayorship there, where people have posed a actually serious, genuine question: is that why doesn't she come here in the Western Cape to Cape Town areas where...
Because she's not campaigning for Cape Town. She's campaigning for the mayorship of Joburg.
Yes, I completely understand that aspect, Joanne. But as somebody who is a leader and people who are in leadership in the Western Cape who are also should learn something from Helen Zille, somebody who's been the stalwart of the DA, she should set a precedent and an example that is different. Yes, she's campaigning for Johannesburg, but there's people that are looking up to her and looking up to the party that is it a party that we can safely say it's guaranteed to take interests of everybody, not just the minority?
We hope so. We certainly hope so. Parks, thank you very much for your call. Parks to us from Cape Town. Right, another story that is breaking at this hour. 2 senior Ekurhuleni officials expected to appear in a Boksburg court this morning. We know at least one of them is believed to be a senior police official, but proceedings were supposed to get underway at 9 a.m. We're going to find out whether that has started already. Our reporter, Horisani Stole, is coming to us live from outside the courtroom. Good morning to you, Horisani. Have proceedings got underway?
Good morning. I think we expect them to start in any minute from now. We've seen the police van coming in escorted with different types of vehicles that we believe that actually Mkhwanazi was in one of them, and they came at high speed here. We've seen a lot of officials that are here, including the city of Ekurhuleni officials who say they have come here just to monitor the situation, how it's going on, and also outside court, there's a handful of DA supporters dressed in their blue regalia, holding placards saying that they are tired of what's going on in the city of Ekurhuleni, which they're describing it as a den of corruption.
We've heard that one senior official in Ekurhuleni is among those appearing today. We understand the other is a senior police officer in the EMPD. Can you confirm that for us, Horisan?
Yes, I can confirm. Actually, we tried to also speak to the spokesperson of City of Ekurhuleni. He confirmed that. But what he has highlighted is that they are appearing on separate matters, meaning that we are yet to hear about the second official, what could have been. But there's allegations of that it has to do with speeding, but the court will have to confirm that later.
All right. We're also hearing there are charges of fraud, corruption, and defeating the ends of justice that the police officer is facing. Any truth to that?
I think that one zooms in more, leads into Mkhwanazi. South Africans might have seen during the Madlanga Commission some of the allegations popping in. We go back to the issues around the fitting of blue lights allegations on Ket Matlala's vehicles, and then allegations of the donations, and then the tender irregularities as well. So we think that those are some of the things, and you'll understand that it was arrested by the Madlanga unit of the SAPS that looks into those matters. So we think those are more leaning towards Julius Mkhwanazi than the alleged speedster that is said to be appearing alongside Mkhwanazi today, but they're on a separate matter.
Thank you so much for that. Our reporter, Horisani Stole, on the ground for us there. He'll be keeping us updated on what's going on. Just after 9:30, and Musa is standing by with your latest news.
Good morning. Thanks, Joanne. In the headlines, suspended Tshwane Chief Financial Officer Gareth Mnisi has returned to testify before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. He's accused of tender manipulation in the procurement of security services for the city of Tshwane. Senior ANC officials, including the party's president, Cyril Ramaphosa, are this morning expected to hold a media briefing at Luthuli House in Johannesburg on the ANC's local government action plan. And Iranian state media say Tehran's negotiators have no plans to attend peace talks with the US in Pakistan today. This as the US confirms that its forces have seized an Iranian-flagged ship in the Gulf of Oman. I'll have details on these and other stories at 10.
The Daily Discourse. More than talk, real understanding.
32 minutes after 9 here on the Daily Discourse. Thank you for joining us. I'm Joanne Joseph. Listening to some of your voice notes on the show. Many of you are outraged over the latest development with the RAF.
Morning, SAfm. Whether it's 5 people or 6 people or 3 people that are getting, that have received funds from RAF, those people, that money could have been used on South African citizens. Not foreign nationals. We cannot say because it's few people, it's not a problem. It's our resources. It's our taxpayers' money. It cannot be used on foreign nationals. Thank you.
Tell me how you feel about that. Some of you also commenting on the Geneva Convention in regard to the RAF.
Good morning, Joanne. It's Marumo in Mahike.
No, man, Joanne, man, you guys are making things worse for us, man. SABC journalists. Geneva Convention, does it only include South Africa? Only South Africa, because this foreign, even in the SADC region, these countries don't pay out the road accident fund. There's nothing like that there. There's nothing like that. You cannot, Geneva Convention, it include only South Africa, so they must come here and claim our money for, no. This is very wrong. This is very wrong. Geneva Convention, does it only say South Africa? Good morning.
Good morning. Well, no, South Africa is not the only country that is a signatory to the Geneva Convention. It's actually been ratified by 196 countries in the world. And if you take that commitment seriously, if you decide, I mean, you don't have to. The United States, for example, is not a party to the Geneva Convention. So it doesn't, for example, have to take in foreigners if it doesn't want. But what I'm saying is we are a country who has signed up to that. I mean, our previous voice note as well said no foreigners at all, we're not paying for them at all. But when you are a country that has a constitution that is based on humanitarian ideals, chances are you are going to face these kind of dilemmas, and you're going to have to kind of give some kind of answer to the question of, do you support people who come into your country who are fleeing conflicts, for example, who are fleeing persecution of certain kinds, who are fleeing economic instability or political persecution in those countries? And what do? Do you close your borders to those individuals, even the ones who have come in legally? And do you say, sorry, you can't have any of our resources? That's an important question we need to ask ourselves. It's a question about perhaps who we see ourselves as on the African continent.
Good morning, Joe. Good morning. I would like to understand, man, about this RAF thing. I thought maybe when you're paying for a petrol, there's a certain amount that goes to RAF. Doesn't matter whether you're a foreigner or you are a citizen. There's an amount that is deducted that goes to RAF. So I don't understand people when they are complaining that we are paying taxi, we are paying this and that, and foreigners that are just getting free. I don't understand. School me on that. That doesn't foreigners pay road accident fund when they buy fuel?
I think you're talking about the fuel levy there. Let me get a breakdown of exactly how the fuel levy is broken down. And let me come back to you. That's a really good question. Let me come back to you with some certainty on that, because I happen to remember that I think you're right on that. But I want to get clarity before I come out and say, yes, that is 100% correct. All right, some of your calls coming through as well. Mduduzeli in Mtata, you also want to comment on the RAF issue. Good morning, Mduduzeli.
Morning and morning to the SAfm listeners. No, I'm not going to comment on that. I want to comment on the case of Malema.
Oh yes, Julius Malema, who was in court last week, first
Yes.
convicted, then last week sentenced for the
Yes.
discharging of that rifle during the EFF celebrations 8 years ago.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
So I am a black man myself in the youth of South Africa. Yesterday, I saw that it was airing on SABC News.
Mm-hmm.
They had a group of young men who came there. It is dangerous the way SABC TV is doing to bring those young men who are clueless and young, and then they are coming to spit hatred and racism on a national TV.
What did they
because-
say exactly, Mduduzeli?
It was about the case, so they were being they were brought there so that they can comment on the matter. And there was a member of EFF that was online, and was also from the NP, a member from the NP who was there also to talk about this. So my complaint is that they are giving too much air to the matter. And then Hitler is got a saying where he says that if you tell a lie over and over again, people believe it to be truth. So the whole country cannot be dragged into the behavior of Malema. So to be brief on this, number one, as people of South Africa, we feel like justice has been served because Malema has fired an automatic rifle on air, and they are bringing the young man's life into a turmoil. They are asking why are we not, why is it a race card again? Why not the guy who gave him the gun? In the video, it does not show that the guy gave him the gun. And Malema is a grown-up and adult. He took the gun, Malema, and fired on the gun.
All right.
So now the guy must take a fall and a bullet for that. Actually, I heard that the guy is suing the state. He's not supposed to be suing the state. He must sue Malema because he gave him his services. And he went there to guard him and secure him. Instead, he's taking his rifle and firing it in air.
Okay, thank you, Mthuduzeli. No, you've made your point very well. You have made your point.
Lastly, they are calling it a toy. It is defeating the
it was clearly, it was clearly not a toy. It was clearly not a toy. Mthuduzeli, thank you so much for that. Lesiba in Khobokwane, you also want to talk about Julius Malema. Do you agree or disagree with Mthuduzeli?
I agree 100% with Mthuduzeli, but my point today, and thanks for taking my call, yourself and the team. You see, I want to put blame on the media, because the way you are treating this issue of Julius Malema, we are not doing the same thing that you have been doing actively with the other political parties such as the African National Congress. You see, Julius Malema is a member of parliament, is a legislator, is developing legislation for us as a country. But it's now a convicted criminal. Julius Malema is criminal. We've got the right to call Julius Malema a criminal. How do you expect us as a citizen to trust Malema there? So the media, NGOs and other active organizations in the community must push hard to make sure that Julius Malema step aside as a member of parliament.
Hold on. Let me stop you there, Lesiba. How does the media influence the course of justice here? Right, Malema has gone to court. He's been sentenced. He's been convicted first, then sentenced. What would you like the media to do? What is it within our power? What is it within our power to do, apart from informing you about the happenings and bringing you analysis of it so that you understand the implications of it?
So what I expect the media to do, they must do the same thing they do the ANC members when they found guilty. Others are just being charged, appearing before court.
Which is what? What would you like the media to do? Can you be specific, please?
Report and push for the withdrawal of Julius Malema from the parliament. But
no. Let's be very clear on this. That's not our job. We're not politicians. If you think that this is our job, then you have misunderstood the job of the media here. The job of the media is to give you fair coverage, balanced coverage, and to bring you the analysis on that. It is to empower you as a citizen to be able to take action on any issue that we bring you. It is not for us to push for the law to take its course. We keep you informed as to what is going on, and we bring you analysis that enables you to be able to use your power as a citizen, as a voter and member of the electorate.
Investing shouldn't feel risky. It should give you security and good returns. Earn up to 7.25% interest per annum with an ABSA Cash Invest Tracker for an investment of 100,000 rands or more. Your capital is guaranteed with immediate access to your funds. That's minimum risk, maximum benefit. ABSA Private Banking customers can invest from just R1. Open via the ABSA Banking app, a branch, a private banker, or 0860 111 515. Your story matters. ABSA is an authorized financial services provider. T's and C's apply.
This Freedom Month, we reflect, we remember, and we celebrate how far we've come. 30 years into democracy, South Africa continues to shape a future grounded in justice, equality, and opportunity for all, under the theme Freedom and the Rule of Law. 30 years of democratic citizenship. SAfm will bring you all things freedom, the voices, the stories, and the conversations that matter. Join us as we honor the journey and explore what freedom means today. SAfm, leading the conversations that move us.
Top Billing is back and it's more spectacular than ever. Join them as they open the doors to South Africa's most iconic lifestyle show, from breathtaking homes and world-class travel to the people shaping culture and success. This is where it all comes together. Mark your calendar. The all-new season of Top Billing premieres on S3 Thursday the 30th of April at 7 p.m. You can also live stream it on SABC Plus, available on all app stores. Top Billing is back on S3. Open up.
Call SAfm now on 086 000 2032.
Heading for 9:45 here on SAfm. And of course, this is the Daily Discourse. I'm Joanne Joseph, taking your calls and your messages. Our WhatsApp line 0614 104 107. Keep them short so we can accommodate as many of your opinions as possible. One of our callers mentioned earlier what the situation is in Cape Town with this awful weather that they've been experiencing. I shouldn't actually complain about the weather in Johannesburg. Cape Town really has had a horrible weekend weather-wise. 2 cold fronts, really heavy rain and flooding. And as I said, sadly, it's always those living in informal settlements who are usually the worst affected. NGO Gift of the Givers has stepped in to help the affected communities. Let's talk to Ali Sablé from the organisation right now. Good morning to you, Mr. Sablé. Just how severe has the damage been on the ground?
Thank you, Joanne. Good morning to the listeners. The calls, as I'm speaking to you, heavy rains are still coming down. The calls from many of the informal settlements are coming through. Yesterday, we could not access some of the areas due to the high levels of water. I'm currently on site to the area of Dunoon, where there was major flooding yesterday, close to 1,000 structures affected. Today, our teams will be on the ground, going to all the major informal settlements around the Cape Metropole and Drakensberg areas, hoping to render assistance to close to 6,000 flood victims affected. And as the day progresses and roads become accessible, we try to move teams in immediately, because it has been a devastating 48 hours for people living in the informal settlements. They have lost everything. Many learners are not gone to school today because of school uniform being washed away. Many of the people's food contaminated. So the major concern at the moment is, especially to those on chronic medication, is to get them a hot meal as soon as possible, providing of blankets and warm clothing.
Tell me how that actually works, Mr. Sablé, because this is complex. You've got to sort out food, you've got to sort out potentially shelter for people whose homes have got to be washed away, and you've got to sort out chronic medication for them. How do you all work together? How do you work with the city and other entities hand in glove to ensure that it is a multi-pronged approach to these efforts?
Okay, during these kind of disasters, we work very closely with the relevant local disaster management teams, the Cape Town disaster management team, the Drakensberg disaster management teams, the Cape Winelands disaster management teams. They are there to ensure that the residents, when it's time of flooding, the residents are in a safe environment, in a community hall, etc. We then step in to provide the immediate humanitarian relief in terms of hot meals, blankets, etc. And Gift of the Givers, it's just not during disasters. We work in these areas. We run many social upliftment projects in this informal system. We are the first line that these people reach out to. And from yesterday morning, 6 o'clock, the calls has been flooding in. Just alone, looking at my diary now, there's already 27 informal settlements that have reached out to us all around the Cape Metropole. Some of the areas are not accessible as yet, but our teams will be assisting all of them as soon as the area becomes accessible. We're moving teams. We have our teams have been cooking since 5 o'clock this morning, preparing to roll out those 5,000 meals. Looks like we'll be working into late in the evening to reach out more areas affected. And there's many schools that reach out to us as well of quite concern, of learners that have come to school with the clothing they've been wearing the whole weekend. So we can see how we can sort them out as soon as possible with warm clothing, etc. But our relief efforts is ongoing.
And tell me, are people by and large able to stay in their homes, or have you had to relocate them alongside other entities, perhaps the provincial government or the municipality?
Some of the people cannot leave their homes because, it's completely flooded, number one. Number two is, if you look at the number of people affected, I don't think there's a big enough community or etc. to accommodate those large numbers. And people in informal settlements are very skeptical of moving during disasters. They are quite afraid that the criminal element will come in and have their belongings stolen. Some of them are lost all their belongings in terms of clothing, food, etc. So it's a very tragic situation. In one day, they're in a catch-22. They cannot. They have to evacuate, but they can't. They do not want to because of being scared of losing all the items and of a hall not big enough to accommodate them. Just on Saturday evening, it was a double disaster for the community of Kanana and Guguletu, where there was an informal settlement fire as well, where 17 family members lost their home due to a fire and suffering double tragedy, nowhere for them to go out in the open in the cold. But we do know that on my last communication with the ward councillor there have been neighbours and good Samaritans that have taken the families in. So our teams will be assisting those families as well.
All right, that's good to hear. Just a question about donations. If any of our listeners would like to contribute to your efforts in any way, is there a way that they can help, Mr. Sable?
Yes, they're most welcome to contact our toll-free number, 0800 786 911. There's a great need at the moment for new blankets, warm clothing, and non-perishable food items.
All right, let me just revise that. Blankets, clothing, non-perishable food items. And please give me that number again.
0800
0800
786
Yes.
911.
911. Okay. Let me give you that number again. 0800 786 911. That is Ali Sable from the Gift of the Givers. They're working in Cape Town. A lot of areas like Drakenstein and the like have been flooded. People are essentially trapped in that area. They can't really move out of that area because of the conditions right now. But Gift of the Givers is assisting them, and they are looking for donations of blankets, of clothing, and non-perishables. And you can get in touch with them on 0800 786 911.
Hey there! Need to know your TV license balance but don't want to wait? No sweat! Just send a quick SMS with your ID or TV license number to 44210. Remember, standard SMS rates apply. And presto, your balance pops right up anytime, anywhere. It's as easy as pie. So why procrastinate? Give it a try and get your info in a flash. T's and C's apply.
You can become a victim of a legal problem: wrongful arrest, assault, uncontested divorce, rental disputes, maintenance matters, or labor problems. It can happen to you. Clientele Legal provides tough professional lawyers for an affordable monthly premium. Our legal team is standing by to assist you 24 hours a day. Join today. SMS SAfm to 32195. That's SAfm to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
The Daily Discourse. More than talk, real understanding.
9 minutes to 10 here on the Daily Discourse. One of you asked a question or made a statement a little bit earlier on about the Road Accident Fund being funded in large part by the fuel levy. And of course, I just wanted to look that up to see how correct that is. That is absolutely correct, actually. There is a dedicated kind of ring-fenced aspect of the fuel levy. So when we go to fill up our vehicles, whether we're putting in petrol or diesel, part of of what we are paying at the pumps is diverted towards the Road Accident Fund. So that really is the largest source of its income. And the SARS then goes on to collect that money, and it is paid out to RAF victims. Of course, it's quite a stringent process. You can't simply step in front of a car with a view to compensation conversation and say, well, I've been knocked over now, I want to access this. The case has got to be investigated. There are investigators who look into it. There are lawyers who are part of the system. And of course, they have to fight your case, and you have to prove in court that you are entitled to a portion of that. As we were saying a little bit earlier on, 2 to 3% going to people who are not South African nationals. All right, let's take a call from Lani in Venda on the RAF. Lani, what's your take on this? Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Joanne, and everyone listening. I think, as much as you are saying we should be careful to analyze what we are obligated to do and what the Geneva Convention and our laws and constitutions say. You should also be careful not to confuse South Africans about what a refugee is, what an asylum seeker is, and what an illegal foreigner is. Asylum seekers and refugees are not illegal foreigners. They come into this country, they state their difficulties, they state their abuse and whatever they're running from, and they get documented and they become legal in South Africa. Somebody who enters this country illegally or enters legally and then continues to stay here illegally is an illegal foreigner. We're not talking about because when you put it under an umbrella and say, no, we have obligations, these people are running from hardship. If you are running from hardship, you enter a country, you state your problem, you are accepted, and then you're documented. If I break into your house and you come back from wherever you're coming from, you find me in the fridge eating food. I'm not stealing your jewelry, I'm not stealing your cell phone. I'm eating food because I'm hungry. That doesn't make it right. You now give me accommodation and a job and say, you know what, you're hungry. I should be able to come to the front door and knock and say, Joanne, I'm hungry. Do you have food for me? And you give me food. That is how things are done. We cannot put everybody under the same umbrella and say everybody must just now come, whether you entered via the Limpopo River, whether you entered via the OR Tambo and then you overstayed your visa and now you are in an accident, you must get paid for here being illegal. Being illegal in a country is a crime. Why must we reward criminality? If you have hardships in Congo, if you have hardships in Nigeria, in Zimbabwe, state your problem. Let us document you. When you get into an accident, you get money that everybody is entitled to. We cannot put everybody in the same umbrella. Don't confuse us. We know what an illegal foreigner is. We know what a refugee seeker is. We know what an asylum seeker is. That's my 2 cents.
No, but don't go yet, Lani, because I think what you're saying is important, and there is a difference. You're absolutely right about that. There absolutely is a difference. However, if you've been paying attention to the way Home Affairs has conducted itself over the last 20 to 30 years, what you're talking about is a kind of utopia, right? I come into the country, I come in I'm fleeing a conflict for argument's sake. I come to the border, I state my case to Home Affairs, I go to court if needs be, and then I get documents. Let's be completely honest about this. Is that the way it's been happening in our country for the last 20 to 30 years? How efficient has Home Affairs been in conducting these asylum hearings and giving people who have deserved to be here because they've gone through the right process the correct documentation? That's simply not true, right? You know very well that although that's the way it should work in theory, it doesn't work that way. And many people who've come into the country and who've joined the queue and who have done everything they have to do to become legal in the country have still not been given access to documents because of the inefficiencies at Home Affairs. You're aware of that, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
So how is it fair? How is it fair? So Lani, how is it fair if what you're saying is not entirely true? How is it fair that people who do come into the country and make a case, and I'm not talking about those who are illegal now, who cross the border and who just come through and kind of, just settle themselves here without going through the process, because absolutely you're 100% right. When you say there is a process, there's a legal process that has to be followed, right? I completely agree with you on that. But what happens when you follow the legal process and you don't get what is due to you? Because of the inefficiencies in the legal system of the country that you've arrived in. It blurs the line, doesn't it?
Must we now say, then we might as well just scrap everything and say, everybody just come in freely. I understand that Home Affairs has inefficiencies, but that doesn't mean everybody that is not getting help from Home Affairs timely is here to seek help. There are people that are here to commit crimes. And of course, there are people that are here to seek help and they're struggling because Home Affairs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But the problem is we are putting everything under as much as everybody is not here to commit crimes, people are running away from whatever they're running away from. We still need to be able to say, you know what, let's deal with our Home Affairs, let's fix Home Affairs. But in the meantime, we cannot say just because Home Affairs is problematic, Home Affairs is doing 1, 2, 3, then everybody must just be free. It must be free for all. It cannot be. We are struggling as South Africans. We are jobless. There is money to just even R1 million to as a collective to see R1 million going to somebody who entered this country illegally for whatever purpose in a car to go commit a crime for all we know, gets into an accident, gets that R1 million, while people are standing in street corners starving. We're not, yes, let's fix home affairs, but we cannot just fold our hands and say, no, because Home Affairs is inefficient, then everybody, in the meantime, let's just allow everybody to come in the country illegally. Let's fix Home Affairs, but, unfortunately, there's collateral in everything that happens. Those who are struggling because of Home Affairs, maybe we Home Affairs, but in the meantime, we cannot just open the border and say, you know what, just because it's inefficient, then it's fine, guys, it's our fault, it's our Home Affairs. Everybody just come and do whatever you want. That's
all right. Lani,
thank
you for that.
I want to let you know, we don't like it.
Okay.
That was our sentiment. That's the majority of us.
Okay, so Lani, you're speaking for a lot of people. I mean, I don't know if everyone agrees with you, but that may be true that most people do agree with you. But be very careful. I did not say the border must be open to everyone and everyone must rush in here. We must be very careful about how we use language to frame things and represent or misrepresent what's been said. Thank you very much for your call. Nete in Harrismith is on the line to us about the new mayor of Maluti Apofong. Good morning, Nete. Oh, all right. Okay, so that call has dropped. I'm afraid we will try and come back to Neta a little bit later on. In the 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock hour that we are heading for shortly, we're going to be speaking about a very important story. And I'm really glad to be able to flag it at this stage, right? Because I remember sitting there 10 years ago saying the same things to people about Life Isidimeni. We interviewed a lot of people at the time. We gave a lot of analysis at the time. It was very clear to the Gauteng Department of Health that a kind of plurality of voices that we had been speaking to were saying the same thing. Do not move the Life Isidimeni patients. I'm hoping that we are not going to find ourselves in the same situation again. The Talisman Foundation, which looks after many patients who are receiving psychiatric care, is finding itself in much the same situation where some of its patients or all of its patients may have to be moved. We're going to look at that issue and how the Gauteng Department of Health plans to manage that. It is 10 o'clock. Here's Anne Musa with your latest news.
Thanks, Joanne. In our top story, senior Ekurhuleni Metro officials to appear in court and Mnisi testifies at Matlanga Commission. Good morning. A handful of DA supporters are protesting outside the Boksburg Magistrates Court, where suspended Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department Deputy Chief Julius Mkhwanazi is expected to appear. The SAPS Matlanga task team arrested Mkhwanazi on Saturday. Another Ekurhuleni senior municipal official who was arrested yesterday is also appearing in the same court. Both are facing charges of fraud, corruption and defeating the ends of justice. City of Ekurhuleni spokesperson Pagamile Bengashe.
Today, two senior government officials from the city of Ekurhuleni will be appearing in court, one being Mr. Julius Mkhwanazi. The matters are different, but we are here as a city just to find out what is actually in front of the court, and we'll be able to engage and comment after the proceedings today.
Suspended Tshwane Chief Financial Officer Gareth Mnisi has admitted that he did not check the compliance of the company's police officer Fanny Nkosi had sent to him. Mnisi has resumed his testimony before the Matlanga Commission of Inquiry. He's accused of tender manipulation in the procurement of security services for the city of Tshwane. Last week, Mnisi denied financially benefiting from security companies that have been doing business with the city. He's at pains to explain why he did not do due diligence.
There is a message from Sergeant Nkosi In this message, he sends me a notice saying 2 vehicles are for land, Ngapeshea and El Shaddai. You can clearly see that he attempted to call me on 2 occasions, and I was busy. I couldn't answer. He even sends a message before the second call, Mfwetu, saying, "Are you able to pick up your call?" We then have a discussion. I call him back because I then had an opportunity. He then explains to me the request on why he's sending me this message. And he's over the telephonic discussion, Chair, can you please assist me with checking compliance for these 2 bids? I then clearly explained to him, unequivocally, Chair, that I cannot check compliance. This bid is closed. There's nothing I can do. You can only explain bid clarification matters subject to tenders closing. So there's nothing I can do.
In other news, senior ANC officials, including the party's president, Cyril Ramaphosa, are this morning expected to hold a media briefing at Luthuli House in Johannesburg on the ANC's local government action plan. This follows the ANC's councillor roll call, which 6,000 party councillors and mayors attended in September last year. Accountability for service delivery failures and restoration of public trust before the 2026 local government elections had topped the agenda of that gathering. ANC Secretary-General Fikile Mbalula.
Led by the President at Luthuli House, we will brief the media on the work done around the action plan on local government. We will then visit Johannesburg Metro in terms of the work that has been done and also the challenges that is faced by the Joburg Metro. All top 7 NWC and NEC members will be deployed across the length and breadth of Johannesburg Metro.
COSATU has welcomed the increase in the Basic Conditions of Employment Act earnings threshold adjustment, which will take effect on the 1st of next month. The new figure has been set at 269,601 per annum from last year's 261,748 Rand 45 cents. This represents an increase of approximately 3%. The Labour Federation's parliamentary coordinator, Matthew Parks.
The main grievance is that for 6 years, between 2013 and 2019, the previous Employment Conditions Commission never adjusted it for inflation for 6 years. So in that 6 years, we saw a significant erosion of the number of workers covered by it, and we're now having to play catch-up. So the inflation adjustment now is fine, but we do need to have a roadmap which says how do we recover those last 6 years? How do we ensure that all workers are covered by the labour relations regime? And for us, that is the critical thing. So we are engaging the Minimum Wage Commission to say, can we have a roadmap, for example, over the next 3 years that will reduce the gap and then we'll eventually recover the last 6 years.
And finally, Iranian state media say Tehran's negotiators have no plans to attend peace talks with the US in Pakistan today. This as the US confirms that its forces have seized an Iranian flagship in the Gulf of Oman. The BBC's Luz Doucet has more.
Media here have been saying that no decision to attend would be taken as long as the U.S. naval blockade of Iran's ports remained in force. Iran continues to be very, very cautious and very suspicious, not wanting to be taken by surprise again. And that is one of the reasons why it had insisted on a higher level of U.S. involvement, which is why the talks are now led by the U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance.
Recapping the top story, a handful of DA supporters are protesting outside the Boksburg Magistrates Court, where suspended Ekurhuleni Metropolitan Police Department Deputy Chief Julius Mkhwanazi is expected to appear. For SAfm News, I am Anne Musa.
Who says talking never solves anything? SAfm, leading the conversations that move us. The Daily Discourse on SAfm with Joanne Joseph, unpacking the issues that matter.
6 minutes past 10 here on the Daily Discourse. Thank you for joining us. I'm Joanne Joseph, and the team is taking your calls. Our studio line 086 000 2032, our WhatsApp line 0614 104 107. As you know, we tend to do a long discussion over the course of the 10 o'clock hour. Let me tell you about what this hour is going to be about, and I really want to hear from you on this issue because last week we brought you an update on the Life Esidimeni tragedy, right? We revealed that the National Prosecuting Authority wants to charge 2 officials who oversaw that disaster in which 144 mental health care patients died. I described it as a blight on the nation, and I maintain it is a blight on our democracy. It should never, ever have happened post-democracy. Now, there's worry that it may happen all over again. The Talisman Foundation in southern Johannesburg, where a large group of mental health patients is being looked after, says it has to vacate the building from which it's been operating for decades. There's real concern that the Gauteng Health Department could hurriedly move the patients to facilities which haven't been properly vetted. The DA's Jack Bloom is raising the alarm. He joins us now. Jack, good morning to you. For those of us who are not fully aware of exactly what the situation is, please fill us in. How did you get to know about this?
Well, I heard some time ago that they were being forced to move. I have visited Talisman Foundation before. I think they do extraordinarily good work. They're licensed for 200 mental health patients, and I thought that they had, decent premises. The patients looked happy. The families could visit them. I mean, that's extremely important. I mean, you don't want a facility, that looks like a prison. This was open areas, and it was very upsetting to me to hear that their landlord had actually basically told them they had to go. And now, of course, the deadline is coming. Mid-May is when they're supposed to be out. And again, I'm hearing very disquieting information about where there's about, I think, 172 that they have to move at this stage. There's no real clarity where they're going and whether it's being done properly. They must get their medicine arranged and everything that wasn't done during life is Sedimeni that needs to be done. And even worse, I have to tell you that at least two of the NGOs where they're supposed to be moved, or it's reported that they'll be moved, were actually NGOs involved in the Life of Sedimeni transfer disaster. So there are warning bells ringing.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to be visiting Talisman tomorrow directly to hear from them their concerns, but the deadline is fast approaching, and I don't really have the confidence that I should have that the Gauteng Health Department is going to do the right thing in this case.
All right, Jack, thank you for flagging this with us. We appreciate it. Jack Bloom, the DA Gauteng spokesperson on health. We're going to take a short break now, and when we come back, we'll be speaking to the Talisman Foundation itself.
Bridget Masinga on SAfm.
Dr. Zukile Luyenge with the Independent South African National Civic Association, which has made a call for the return of school prayers, saying that crime and corruption and moral decay in general demand a return to Christian values.
Our society has disconnected with the government when it abolished morning prayers in our schools. The government may deny it by the consequences of this era of judgment that has led to the decay of moral fiber.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m. The Daily Discourse on SAfm, weekday mornings from 9 to 12.
Almost 11 past 10 here on the Daily Discourse. This is the big story that we're following for you in this hour. Worry that the mental health care patients from the Talisman Foundation in southern Johannesburg may have to be moved on very short notice, and warnings from the civil society sector that they do not want to see another Life of Sedimeni take place, and they're hoping this is not going to happen again. Let's bring into the conversation the chairperson of the board of the Talisman Foundation, Mr. Jackie Tau. Mr. Tau, good morning to you, and thank you very much for being with us today. For those of us who are unaware of the Talisman Foundation's work, please put us in the picture. How long have you existed, and what exactly do you do there?
Sorry, that's a bit low. Can you repeat the question?
Sorry, I will repeat that. I hope you can hear me a little bit better now, Mr. Dao. I'm just asking you for a little bit of background here about how long the Talisman Foundation has existed and what work you do there, please.
Well, Talisman Foundation has been operating for about 20 years. And then I'm of the view that it has been doing a very excellent job with a very good relationship with the Department of Health because they were really supporting us quite well until such time that we started experiencing problems with the owners of the building. And up to that time, we had thought maybe the Department of Health will be working with us to address the problem of relocation. And regrettably, we didn't get the sense that they were with us. They were going to take a very quick action in evicting the residents, who most of them have been there for more than 15 years. And that became a very serious concern to us.
So Mr. Tower, sorry,
Yes.
before we continue, I just want to ask you for some clarity, please. I understand that this issue has come about because the landlord needs to sell the property from which you are operating. Have you been able to ask for just a little bit more time, or can the Gauteng Health Department ask for that so that whatever course of action taken is a little less rushed?
To be quite honest, I do not think the Department of Health ever thought that we needed to have an eviction, because the eviction notice didn't mean that this is a court that made the decision. You know, if I have to give you the dates, I mean, the eviction letter came around the 12th of February. And then the following week, the Department of Health decided to relocate without good consultation with the board, obviously the management, and the residents as well. And I must say, for you to relocate, it's a logistical nightmare, because you need to inform the families. You need to get the files, and the residents need to go and see the NGOs that where they'll be relocated and see whether they are happy. And we didn't think that was done, because for all interviews that they said they did, they didn't even involve our very own facilitators in this activity.
When you say, yes, sorry, Mr. Tau, when you talk about interviews, who were these interviews held with?
Well, the interviews from the personnel of multidisciplinary team of the Department of Health. They never even involved all our facilitators who've been dealing with these patients for all the years. And that became a very serious problem for us, because we didn't even understand fully what their plan was all about.
So tell me, they held interviews, but with whom? Did they do it with your administrators, or did they do it with the patients themselves? Who has the Gauteng Health Department been speaking directly to the best of your knowledge?
They were speaking to the patients. They came to management and just asked for the files of the patients. That's all what they did.
Would that be the normal course of things? I mean, my understanding is with patients, particularly those who are receiving psychiatric care, that you would have to be working with the management of the facility to be able to say, you know, can we speak to a particular type of patient? Will you sit in on that, etc.? Is that the process that was followed?
We are of the view that should have happened, and regrettably that didn't happen.
Did the patients in any way find their interactions unsettling, given that there was no one from the facility or from their families present when those interviews took place?
Well, I must be honest with you. At that time, patients were so distressed and confused. They didn't know what to do. And most of them, I think they felt that they were being coerced, you know, in signing some of these agreements.
So what is the next course of action? Surely instead of just relocating, the idea would be to try and buy more time, because the eviction notice is, as you say, not a legal one handed down by a court. So is there still time for the department, together with your foundation, to open up a discussion between yourselves and the landlord about the possibility of just buying a bit more time so that the process of relocations is smoother if they must take place?
We have requested that we should be given 12 to about 18 months or so for us to be able to find an alternative accommodation.
And have you told the Gauteng Health Department?
We have told everybody concerned, the landlord and the Department of Health. Now, here is a catch here. our service level agreement with the department is renewable on a yearly basis, which means that March was the end of the SLA, which are normally renewed from April.
Right.
And that became a very serious problem. We just felt that maybe it is in collapse, because anybody that you are moving from the Talisman Foundation, it would have an impact in the running of the Talisman Foundation. So we were in a very precarious position. It's the Department of Health this side, and we have the landlord this side. And thanks to the coordinating organization of the NGOs, namely the South African Foundation for Mental Health, that came in to try and make sure that they understand what are the issues with the Department of Health. And I must say that in all our interaction, it became very clear that the department was not going to move. They really meant to move the patients out.
Do they plan on moving all the patients? I understand they number about just over 170.
It's 170, and the number that they were going to, or rather, should I say, the number of patients that were going to move in a phased way was 5, which means really, in a month's time, they wanted to reach a figure of, towards the end of March, they should have moved everybody. Which means the Talisman would have been collapsed altogether, because we do get a significant subsidy that assists us in running the operation.
I mean, a solution, or one of the possible solutions on the table could be, of course, if the department found another form of accommodation where all of your patients could move along with the Talisman Foundation staff. Was that never looked at as an option?
That would have been a better option, to be quite honest. But in our discussion, they are not in the game of finding location, running NGOs. They believe that NGOs are independent, but under the circumstances, we would have felt maybe they would have found those solutions, or even mediate, with the landlord for them to allow us for an extension, because we're in a situation whereby we were unable to communicate with the landlord, because they had already taken the matter with their lawyers.
All right.
And with further communication as well with our erstwhile lawyer, we requested, for some mediation of some kind, and they simply said, no, they stand firm. We are going to be evicted by the 14th of May, which was just around the corner, like Mr. Jack Bloom has said. But I must say that up to now, not many patients haven't been moved out of the Talisman, maybe because of the discussions that are taking place. And would like to believe that they will keep it that way and ensure that we get an extension of more than a year. 3 months is not sufficient, because they are saying they give us the license for another 3 months. It's just impossible, because to look for an alternative accommodation, it's a very laborious task, though we have already started looking, but we know that nothing is final yet, because we have to meet a certain criteria, for us to be given a license to operate.
Well, thank you very much for putting us in the picture as to exactly what has happened from your point of view. Mr. Jackie Tao, chairperson of the board at the Talisman Foundation. We're going to continue with this conversation in just a moment.
Bridget Masinga on SAfm.
The question to you on social media is, does the gym intimidate or inspire you to take charge of your health?
So the big thing is 65% of women fear being judged. Then the second fear is that you feel that you're not fit enough to begin. And you're already telling yourself that in your mind. It sees it as a social threat and sees it as a danger. The buzzword at the moment is gym intimidation.
That was Liesel van der Westhuizen, mental fitness and burnout business coach.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m. You are listening to Joanne Joseph on SAfm.
22 minutes past 10 here on the Daily Discourse. This is the story we're following closely for you at this hour. Jackie Tao, chairperson of the board of the Talisman Foundation, has just told us that over 170 patients who are housed there and who are given very advanced psychiatric care are likely going to be moved to several other locations in the next few months. This has come about because the landlord has obviously told them that the lease is expiring, or they will not be able to rent it anymore. He wants to sell the building where this foundation has been housed for a number of years. And now the Gauteng Health Department is having to scramble to find space for these patients, because it seems they've opted, rather than applying for an extension, they've actually opted to move the patients so far. This is what we're hearing. Let's bring into the conversation right now civil society group Section 27. You remember they were extremely vocal in speaking out about the Life Esidimeni tragedy, and they're similarly worried that this could recur. Asipe Funda is an attorney at Section 27. Good morning to you, Ms. Funda. How closely has the Gauteng Health Department been working to actually try to find a solution to this that suits the patients primarily, and the Talisman Foundation, as well as the department that must administer this?
Good morning, Joanne. So we've had a number of engagements with the department, particularly two meetings. And it's important to emphasize that these two meetings were not at the ask of the department. Civil society had to call the department in for a meeting to raise concerns regarding this process. And civil society is not just raising concerns regarding the decision to relocate and the process undertaken out of, paranoia or, made up panic. It's because of how the department has implemented this decision. I want to paint a clearer picture and add on to what Mr. Jackie Tao has explained.
Yes.
The department has been acting unilaterally throughout this process. Talisman Foundation engaged the department even prior to the notice coming up, when there were still just maintenance disputes, to say, hey, there are these disputes happening with the landlord. Can you mediate? Can you assist us? Instead of the department being forthcoming with mediation, they then arrived at the Talisman Foundation without informing anyone prior, started requesting files of the residents, as Mr. Tao has explained, and put residents in halls and held clinical assessments in those halls and big meeting rooms without individually clinically assessing residents. People were being asked to take off clothes to show that they don't have any tattoos and so forth. Yes, the department did have a multidisciplinary team on the property. However, the manner in which they have done it is completely flawed, and it undermines the right to dignity and privacy of the residents. That is why we are then saying this is such a rushed process, and it's so uncoordinated, and it's happening in a haphazard manner. And if you'll recall, there was that ombudsman report that was issued after Life Esidimeni. The department has repeated all of those mistakes. One, lack of meaningful engagement. Two, acting in an uncoordinated manner and risking a mass movement, because the only reason why the department has not relocated residents to this date is because the Talisman wrote a letter to the department informing them that they would not be releasing any residents without a due process being followed. So the department has not really been meaningfully engaged, and we have to highlight meaningful engagement is required here by law, and that has not happened. It has not happened with the residents. It has not happened with the families of the residents, with the management of Talisman Foundation, with civil society, and with the board of the Talisman Foundation.
Let me go back a little bit, Ms. Funde, because I want to ask you about these disagreements that you spoke about that happened prior to the landlord giving notice. What was the nature of those disagreements? And please tell me why it wasn't resolved by the department which I understand administers these types of foundations.
So there are long-standing disputes between the landlord and the Talisman Foundation as the DC, particularly relating to maintenance issues on the property, so much that the Talisman Foundation has had to spend a lot of money in maintaining the property and ensuring upgrades so that it could be in compliance with the licensing standards of the department. Now, the main issue has been the issue of an incorrect billing of the premises by the city of Johannesburg, where the Talisman Foundation has been incorrectly billed up to millions of rands. And we're speaking about a foundation that relies on donations and subsidies from government. So now the issue stemmed from the foundation requesting the landlord to intervene and take on this matter with the city of Johannesburg and ensure that the property is billed properly. So last year, the landlord demanded over R1 million in utilities from the foundation. And the foundation explained that, one, it couldn't pay this amount, as it was still due to the incorrect billing. Secondly, there were still outstanding amounts from the city of Johannesburg that had not been paid to the foundation. So the foundation could not continue paying the city of Johannesburg more money until that was resolved. That was the essence of the dispute up until the end of 2025. And now the landlord then came with this eviction notice. So that's the nature of the dispute between the parties. And, you know, the department is saying that the landlord shared with them that they would be evicting residents in October last year. But the Talisman Foundation was not privy to those conversations. They were not informed of this impending eviction. They only saw the eviction notice that came in February.
Oh, so the department actually was informed before the Talisman Foundation was informed that there were going to be evictions. Are you saying the Gauteng Department of Health knew about it before the Talisman did?
That's what the Gauteng Department of Health is telling us.
All right. So this is a very complex matter indeed, and I want you to please stay with us if you have the time to, Ms. Funda, please, because it's important that we clear up all the little nuances around the story. It's a very complex one indeed. And if you are listening, wherever you are, at home, in your offices, I'm starting to get the awful feeling that something is going on here that we need to keep a very, very close eye on and deconstruct in a way that is very clear and that keeps everybody, in fact, involved accountable to ensure that the health of these mental health patients is actually put first in this entire process. We're dealing with patients who are living with all sorts of conditions. There's a range of conditions, as I understand, that are being treated, and a range of patients being treated for all sorts of conditions at the Talisman Foundation. And as this has not happened before, I think we need to be quite clear in illuminating exactly what is happening on the ground in this story. It's 10:30 right now. We're going to take your news headlines with Anne Musa, and when we come back, we'll continue the conversation. Stay with us on the Daily Discourse.
Good morning. Thanks, Joanne. We start with breaking news. The Pretoria Magistrates Court has ordered that alleged criminal mastermind Vusimuzi Cat Matlala remain at the Kgosimampuru Maximum Security Prison for consultations until the 13th of next month. Matlala is facing charges of fraud and corruption in relation to the 360 million rand police tender that was awarded in 2024. A handful of DA supporters are protesting outside the Boksburg Magistrates Court, where suspended Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department Deputy Chief Julius Mkhwanazi is expected to appear. Another Ekurhuleni senior municipal official who was arrested yesterday is also appearing in the same court. And suspended Tshwane Chief Financial Officer Gareth Mnisi has admitted that he did not check the compliance of the company's police officer Fanny Nkosi had sent to him. Mnisi has resumed his testimony before the Matlanga Commission of Inquiry. Details on these and other stories at 11.
The Daily Discourse. More than talk, real understanding.
10:31 here on the Daily Discourse, our continuing conversation about what's happening at the Talisman Foundation, where it looks as though many patients, around about 170 psychiatric patients, are going to be evicted and then moved out into different facilities. This is what we understand to be the case. We're going to be asking the Gauteng Health Department what is happening in a moment. But right now we're having a conversation with Section 27's representative, the attorney for Section 27, who's dealing with this issue very closely. Her name is SAfm, and she is giving us a broader picture of exactly how all of this has played out. So thank you very much for staying with us at this hour, Ms. Funda. I want to ask about this issue of the possibility of moving the residents en masse to another building. And we know that the Gauteng Health Department doesn't deal with it specifically, but there is a government department that deals with this. To my understanding, Public Works is the department that ensures that every facility that falls under government that needs to be housed in a particular type of facility is done. So, that work is done, essentially. So tell me, why did Public Works not intervene here to say, okay, let's move all of these residents en masse to a separate location. We will find you a place. Even if we cannot do it immediately, we will start the process of looking for another place for you.
Those are some of the options we would have expected that the Gauteng Department of Health would engage us on. But instead, they've decided to distance themselves and highlight the independence of the Talisman Foundation as a non-governmental entity. And, the department is quite mistaken in that. They do have a duty to support these organizations, particularly when these organizations are providing such a high standard of care like the Talisman Foundation, and they come to such issues. The department is the primary mandated party for access to health care for the residents at Talisman Foundation. And the Talisman Foundation is actually assisting or rather providing a delegated service that is primarily provided by the department. One would expect, like you've mentioned quite a number of options that we ourselves thought were reasonable, that the department could have mediated between even the landlord and the Talisman Foundation. And then if they saw that there was no recourse or no maintaining the relationship between the parties, asking for an extension. We have to highlight that Section 27, as the representative of the Talisman Foundation, has written to the Old Apostolic Church, and they've not been responsive. They've chosen not to respond to our correspondence. However, they have been forthcoming and willing to engage with the department. Yet the department has not used that as an opportunity to then say to them, look, these are residents who are particularly vulnerable. Any change in environment can trigger a relapse. And any form of separation, particularly with a team of experts that has provided care to them for almost 20 years, could lead to dire consequences. But none of that has happened.
So I mean, in an ideal situation, it seems that if the patients were going to be received by smaller facilities and perhaps going to be separated, but if they were going to be received by facilities that were suitable and appropriate to their needs and well-resourced, on the same level as the kind of care that they're receiving at the Talisman Foundation, it doesn't seem to me, with my little knowledge of psychiatric care, that it would be a huge problem. Do you object in principle to their being moved to smaller organizations, or do you object to the conditions under which they may be held in those smaller organizations?
So first, our primary objection is to the manner in which the Department of Health has handled this matter. We are not saying no completely to a relocation. No one has said no, a relocation can never happen. But what has been said to the department is, can this not be a process that risks the health and lives of residents, number one? And secondly, can you first consider supporting the organization? Because that is first prize. We've spoken with an expert in psychiatry, and even the treating psychiatrist at the foundation. And what's being said by experts is that first prize would be for the residents to remain at the facility on these premises so that there's no disruptions to their rehabilitation program. Second prize would be to move them as a community, because community and familiarity matters so much. It is integral to this particular group. So that was second prize. Move the Talisman Foundation, remain within the same care, the same doctors, the same experts, and move them to an alternative facility, which the Talisman Foundation has been open to. And if that fails, then we can speak about relocation. But when we speak about relocation, then we would need transparency. One, regarding the process that would be undertaken in moving the residents to those facilities. Secondly, engagement of the residents and the families regarding those facilities, and assurances regarding the vetting and inspection of those facilities. So those are the options that we would have ideally wanted to be sitting with on the table.
Just one last question to you, and that's something that Jack Bloom mentioned. Apparently, two of the names of the organizations to which the patients may likely be moved seem to have a similarity with two organizations that were flagged during the Life Esidimeni investigation. Have you followed that up? Is there any truth to that?
So we followed that up in the first meeting with the Department of Health. We flagged it with them. And they came back in the second meeting and confirmed that indeed it's actually 3 of the facilities that they plan to move the residents to that were involved in Life Esidimeni. Particularly one facility is where most of the deaths in the Life Esidimeni tragedy happened. And when we have requested assurances regarding the state of those facilities, the department has sort of given us a high-level response of, in any case, organizations licensed with the department are inspected every 3 months. But that doesn't provide us with assurances, because even in the Life Esidimeni tragedy, some of those facilities where these tragedies happened were licensed with the department. Yet the department was not able to ensure that they were up to standard and able to provide the care required by those patients. And what we're concerned about in this case as well, it doesn't seem as though a process was undertaken to establish the needs of the residents at Talisman, the individual needs of the residents at Talisman, and align them with the facilities they'll be placed at. The treating team at Talisman has not been consulted to this day, whereas they are the ones who know best what the needs of the residents are. And I want to highlight that we are already seeing the impact of, the red flags, or rather the impact of this decision that has been taken by the department. The Talisman Foundation is already seeing relapses in some of the residents there. There is panic. Some residents are already showing signs of, distress and paranoia. Some families that had taken out their family members out of panic, because that was the other issue. The department then said to families they can take their family members. Most of the families are ill-equipped to look after their families, and some have reached out to the Talisman Foundation and the South African Depression and Anxiety Group to say, hey, our family members have relapsed and now we no longer know what to do. And the Talisman Foundation can't take them back because they have been stopped by the department from admitting more residents. And most alarmingly, Joanne, the department has not opted to engage with the Talisman Foundation. The last direct contact they've had with the Talisman Foundation was to hand over a letter to them informing them that they were revoking their license and their SLA. So you see why we are saying that the manner in which the Gauteng Department of Health has decided to approach this manner is quite hostile, if we're being honest.
Ms. Sipefunda, thank you so much for speaking to us. She is an attorney at Section 27. We'll hear from the department next.
Brilliantly taken!
Last year, the Proteas women were runners-up in the final of the ICC ODI World Cup against India in front of 1 billion cheering Indian fans.
The new champions of the world, India!
Now Laura and her team take them on home ground with your unwavering support behind them. Watch this unmissable T20 International Series versus India live this April with 2 games in Durban, 2 in Joburg, and 1 in Benoni. Let's get behind the Proteas. Tickets are selling fast. Book today at cricket.co.za. Dare to be unbreakable.
Attention all shoppers.
Our supermarket shelves are full of unhealthy food. It's often hard for me to know which foods are good for my family. The information on packaged food is complicated and hard to understand. I wish we had easy-to-understand warning labels on foods high in salt, sugar, and saturated fat. We have the right to know what's in our food. Support front-of-package warning labels on unhealthy packaged foods. Sign the petition on healer.org. That's HEALA.org.
You are listening to Joanne Joseph on SAfm.
Right, 10:43 is the time here on the Daily Discourse. Following up now with the Gauteng Health Department, following these reports that a number of patients, in fact 170-odd patients, are going to be moved from the Talisman Foundation that deals with their psychiatric care. Very, very many concerns being voiced by the foundation itself, by Section 27 that is along with them, trying to facilitate this relocation as easily as possible for the patients. But we are hearing some disturbing things that they're telling us about the way that has been carried out. So let's speak to the Gauteng Health Department's Dr. Percy Mkulu, Chief Operating Officer. He joins us on the line now. Thank you very much for your time this morning, Dr. Mkulu. For starters, I'm going to ask you to respond to the allegations that have been made by both the Talisman Foundation and by Section 27 that you, as the Gauteng Health Department, have not handled these relocations in the way you ought to have.
Good morning to yourself and your listeners. As a department, I just want to highlight a few key issues in terms of this. We were informed as a department that the landlord and the foundation have not come into terms in terms of their lease agreement. And we received a letter from the landlord that as of the 14th of May, they are now going to evict the patients or the foundation from their premises.
All right.
And as a department, we then had to have a contingency plan that talks to the patients that are housed there, because we are the people who are responsible for that vulnerable group of mental health patients that are housed at Talisman Foundation.
So Dr. Selepe, sorry, I didn't actually give your full name initially, Dr. Percy Mkulu Selepe. So, Dr. Selepe, when you found out about this, I presume you would have engaged the Talisman Foundation, and I presume they would have told you at that stage that it was first prize for them, for the residents to remain on that property, if possible, for as long as possible, or to be moved to a facility all together as a group, because it appears that they've become quite emotionally and psychologically dependent on each other and on the treating team that looks after them. Did you look into that as the first possibility?
Yeah, well, we have a team of clinicians that it's working on this matter, that is comprised of psychiatrists from the Johannesburg district, the social workers, the OTs, and the physios. That we're engaging with Talisman, including our Director of Mental Health Services. And just to mention that the issue has been ongoing because Talisman has been on a month-to-month lease with the owners of the building. And as a department, we were really going on to renew their a contract and MOU with us, despite the fact that that risk existed. But as a department, then we had to look at the resources that are available in terms of ensuring that our contingency plan avoid certain risks that we had learned previously. One, we needed to ensure that these, if we were to relocate, these patients would go to appropriate clinical facilities that would be resourced in terms to match with the level of their clinical conditions. And as such, our clinicians had to do individual assessments for each and every mental health care user that was there. And that process is still ongoing, and they had to document all this.
All right.
But also,
yes.
Yeah.
So I want to just ask you a question about it, because you haven't quite answered my question, which was the Talisman Foundation recommended that the patients be moved as a group, right? If they were going to be moved. So firstly, they wanted their lease with the landlord extended, and secondly, they said if you can't do that, can you please move them as a group to another appropriate facility? Did you look into that possibility initially?
Yeah, I mean, if Talisman comes to us as a department and say, we have found another area that we have a lease and we want you to assist us to move all the patients into that area. As a department, we would therefore support Talisman to move all the patients slowly and progressively into the new area that they have found.
So it's up to them, sir. So it would be up to them to find another facility, not the Gauteng department working perhaps with the Department of Public Works. Isn't that a departmental function, a government function, rather than the foundation's function?
No, remember that the current lease that they have, it's between them and the church. It's not the lease with the department.
No, I realize that.
Yeah, the facility does not belong to the department.
I'm aware of that, but I'm asking, is it not your responsibility to find a new facility for them, or is it up to Talisman to find their own facility?
It's up to them to find a suitable place and come back to us and say, we've found a place.
All right.
All these NGOs that the department is working with and funding, they have come to us with the place that they is suitable, that they have found, and they've got leases with the landlords, and we then support them in ensuring that the services continue, and we fund them, and they also have other funders that fund them.
All
but
right.
As a department, we do not have a facility that really is ready to accommodate. So that's why, as a department, we had to look at the current facilities that are available and that are licensed and approved to provide mental health care services. And we had then to look at the vacancies that are available and at what and the level of care that is being rendered in those particular facilities.
All right. So we're doing, yes. Just stay with us, please, Dr. Selepe, because we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, you and I will continue our conversation.
Is there ever a bad time for a good conversation? SAfm, leading the conversations that move us.
Top billing is back and it's more spectacular than ever. Join them as they reopen the doors to South Africa's most iconic lifestyle show, from breathtaking homes and world-class travel to the people shaping culture and success. This is where it all comes together. Mark your calendar. The all-new season of Top Billing premieres on S3, Thursday the 30th of April at 7 p.m. You can also stream it live on SABC Plus, available on all app stores. Top Billing is back on S3. Open up.
The Daily Discourse. More than talk, real understanding.
9 minutes to 11 on the Daily Discourse, continuing our conversation with Dr. Percy Mkulu-Selepe, Chief Operating Officer at the Department of Health in Gauteng. Doctor, thanks again for your time. So you raised an important point before our break, which is that it is for the Talisman Foundation, you say, to go and find their own accommodation, suggest that accommodation to you, and you can begin those negotiations. Having said that, they have asked for a period of between 12 to 18 months, during which time they could perhaps look for another facility. But it seems to me that you would have to step in here, especially because there were disputes over their City of Johannesburg bill, there were disputes over maintenance and so on that apparently were dealt with directly with the department, and you have seemingly a relationship with the landlord. Would it not have been possible for you to have that negotiation with the landlord and say, please give them 12 to 18 months to find another facility to move to?
No, thanks again. Just to say, as it's their responsibility for the premises management, as a department, we cannot intervene in the lease management, but we are legally and ethically obligated to intervene. As such, we did intervene with the landlord and requested an extension from the deadline of the 14th of May. And the landlord said, due to the challenges and the risk that is involved, they are prepared to give us another extension of 3 months, but they are not prepared to go beyond that. And as a department, we are waiting for a formal letter from them to just reassure us that for the sake of the patients and ensuring that we follow due processes in a staggered manner and we do not rush these patients out of that premises, and we are able to really safeguard the patients. They have agreed. But we have not also closed the possibility of understanding that as the HOD will be meeting with the landlord again to clearly find out how can, as a department, assist in terms of the patients that are there, because our primary concern as a department is that we need to have those patients safe, and we need to have continuity of care for them, and we really need to ensure that clinically and everything is done as per their needs, those patients, and they are placed in appropriate areas.
And yet, what the foundation is telling us, and Section 27 in fact is telling us, is that your officials entered the premises of the Talisman Foundation. They didn't warn them that they were coming. They pulled residents out, they put them in a hall, they clinically assessed them as a group, they asked some of them to remove their garments, which is a clear attack on their dignity, Dr. Selepe. The patients were apparently left distressed and confused. Some of them felt coerced. And your officials did not apparently deal with their treatment team at Talisman. Now, if this is true, it's a very, very serious allegation against your department's conduct in this regard.
Well, in a meeting last week, Talisman did raise those concerns that they were unhappy with the way our officials conducted themselves in that facility. And we have asked the Director of Mental Health Care to go and find out and review in terms of the processes that were followed. So as a department, we are concerned about that concern that was raised, concerning the conduct of our officials that went there. So we are really going to look into that in terms of that conduct and go through the documentation that in those areas. But as far as the report that was we received as a department, the psychiatrist was there, which we expect that ethically they would understand that we don't address patients in public, and social workers, they were there, but we know that social workers just do not address patients. They just deal in terms of taking history and engaging patients. So we will look into that as a department in that as we are continuing to work in conjunction with a Talisman, because we do not want to work alone in this matter. We want the
according to, sorry to come in there,
Talisman.
but to be fair, I mean, Section 27 says you haven't actually been speaking to Talisman, that they haven't heard from you for quite a long while. So to purport that you have been dealing with them and you're working with them on this would not appear to be true if we're to believe Section 27.
Unfortunately, I wouldn't be saying anything contrary, but previously we've already had 2 meetings. One meeting
That
our
they
HOD
called for.
was
Meetings that they called for, not that you called for.
One meeting our HOD was there. The last meeting, I was part of that meeting. And in the meeting that I was part of last week, we agreed that there were 2 meetings where even there's existence of minutes of those 2 meetings between our team and the foundation's team. And we will be getting those minutes from our team just to verify in terms of those 2, which were confirmed in a meeting by both parties, that the 2 meetings did take place, and there are minutes towards those 2 meetings.
No one is denying that, Dr. Silipi. What I was saying to you is that the Section 27 attorney has complained that they had to call meetings and that you didn't yourself as the department. But let me ask you one last question here. 3 of the homes that the patients are supposed to be sent to, that some of the patients will be sent to, seemingly, are homes that were flagged during the Life Esidimeni tragedy, or post the Life Esidimeni tragedy. Are you planning on sending some of the patients to homes where their care will be compromised, as it potentially has been compromised in the past?
As a department, we are very cautious of that move in terms of ensuring that patients go to areas where they are licensed and we are sure that our patients are going to receive proper care. And the team is ensuring that they assess all those patients, those areas. And on a quarterly basis, we also do those assessments to accredit these service providers that are providing health care. Yes, the team did mention in last week that 3 of those caregivers were part of were mentioned in the mental health care Life Esidimeni report. But the team has been working with those service providers to ensure that they have improved. But as a department, we are still committed to have oversight from our mental health care review board, from Section 27 and other civil organizations, so that we do not find ourselves in a position where we do not agree. So that oversight is going also to assist us that where we do not agree in terms of that facility, we do not place patients or our mental health care users in those facilities, despite the fact that they are in the list of identified service providers. But we have welcomed Section 27's oversight, our Human Rights Commission as an oversight in the process, so that we all agree in terms of where we take our patients. And those that we feel that they are not compliant, they don't meet the requirements, then we will not take patients to those service providers.
All right, let's leave it there. Thank you for speaking to us. Dr. Percy Mkhulu-Selepe, Chief Operating Officer at the Gauteng Health Department. Just after 11, let's catch up with Onde Lambana, who has your latest news.
Thank you, Joanne. On the top stories, Matlala to remain at the Mampuru maximum security prison, and US-Iran peace talks impacted by latest vessel blockade. For SAfm News, I am Onde Lambana, and a very good morning. Alleged criminal cartel member Vusibuzi Ket Matlala is to remain at the Mampuru maximum security prison in Pretoria for consultations until the 13th of next month. This follows the Pretoria Magistrates Court order. Matlala is facing charges of fraud and corruption related to the 360 million rand police tender that he was awarded in 2024. He is charged alongside 12 other senior police officers and director of a company known as Medicare 24. A handful of DA supporters protesting outside the Boksburg Magistrates Court, where suspended EMPD's Deputy Chief Julius Mkhwanazi is expected to appear. Another Ekurhuleni senior municipal official who was arrested yesterday is also appearing in the same court. Both are facing charges of fraud, corruption and defeating the ends of justice. City of Ekurhuleni spokesperson Phakamile Mbengashe.
Today, two senior government officials from the city of Ekurhuleni will be appearing in court, one being Mr. Julius Mkhwanazi. The matters are different, but we are here as a city just to find out what is actually in front of the court, and we'll be able to engage and comment after the proceedings today.
Meanwhile, Action SA has welcomed the arrest of the two Ekurhuleni officials. It has also called for Mkhwanazi's immediate dismissal from the seat of Ekurhuleni. Dumelo Chabalala is Action SA's Ekurhuleni spokesperson.
It underscores our long-standing position as Action SA that some of these individuals should have long been dealt with, because these allegations have always been there. Way before the Madlanga Commission. We heard at the Commission how senior managers prevented investigations to conclude and how reports were concealed and prevented to even reach counsel. So this is a very serious matter, and we're encouraged by the fact that it appears that the Madlanga Commission is ensuring that everyone who was meant to account is now being held accountable. We see no reason why he should not be prosecuted, but most importantly, why he should not be dismissed.
Suspended Tswana CFO Gareth Mnisi has admitted that he did not check the compliance of the companies that police officer Fani Ngosi had sent to him. He is accused of tender manipulation in the procurement of security services for the city of Tshwane. Mnisi has resumed his testimony before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry in Pretoria.
We then have a discussion. I call him back because I then had an opportunity. He then explains to me the request on why he's sending me this message. And he's over the telephonic discussion, Chair, can you please assist me with checking compliance for these two bids? I then clearly explained to him, unequivocally, Chair, that I cannot check compliance. This bid is closed. There's nothing I can do. You can only explain bid clarification matters subject to tenders closing. So there's nothing I can do.
The U.S. seizure of the Iranian vessel could affect the latest round of peace talks between Iran and the U.S. and Pakistan this week. Iranian state media say Tehran's negotiators have no plans to take part as long as Washington continues to blockade Iranian ports. The BBC's Lise Doucet reports.
Even before this incident, Iranian officials had been responding with a stony silence to this swirl of media reports coming out of the United States that the talks would take place on Tuesday. But media here, aligned to the powerful Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, had been saying that no decision to attend would be taken as long as the U.S. naval blockade of Iran's ports remained in force.
Recapping the top story, alleged criminal cartel member Vusibuzi Ket Matlala is to remain at the Mampuru maximum security prison in Pretoria for consultations until the 13th of next month. I am Onde Lambana for SAfm News. Headlines at 11:30.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAfm 106.1 FM in Durban North. If we have rights, shouldn't we also have opinions? SAfm, leading the conversations that move us. This Freedom Month, we reflect, we remember, and we celebrate how far we've come. 30 years into democracy, South Africa continues to shape a future grounded in justice, equality, and opportunity for all, under the theme Freedom and the Rule of Law. 30 years of democratic citizenship. SAfm will bring you all things freedom, the voices, the stories, and the conversations that matter. Join us as we honor the journey and explore what freedom means today. SAfm, leading the conversations that move us. The Daily Discourse on SAfm, weekday mornings from 9 to 12.
6 minutes past 11 here on the Daily Discourse. We are into our third and final hour. I'm Joanne Joseph. Great to be with you as always. I'd love to hear from you on the story that we ran in the last hour, this issue of the Talisman Foundation and the many patients who are going to have to be relocated. It doesn't look like there's any other option at this point. The landlord does want them to go, and he appears to have given them 3 months to go, but the fear is that the kind of thing that happened with Life Esidimeni is going to repeat itself. You may have listened into that conversation. It was a long hour. We spoke to the DA's Jack Bloom, we spoke to the Talisman Foundation, we spoke to Section 27 and to the Gauteng Health Department. Are you convinced of the seriousness of the situation and of the seriousness of the Gauteng Health Department's response in dealing with it? Is it appropriate? Let's take some of your voice notes on that.
Morning, SAfm. We're listening attentively, so we don't want a repeat of the Esidimeni, the mistakes. As hopefully everybody has learned from the past mistakes. We're not going to repeat them. But I also hope that these interviews you're conducting are not one-sided. We must also hear the side of government, interviewing in non-governmental organization. What are the theoretical framework for that intervention? What informs them to intervene in a private matter as government? Lastly, I hope this one is gonna resonate with everybody. There must be transparency, and politics must stay out of this issue. Major from Gauteng.
Major, you're quite right. I think transparency is the name of the game here. And the Gauteng department did actually respond. If you had listened to the full hour, maybe you missed that last bit, but we gave the Gauteng Health Department a good 20 minutes to be able to respond to the assertions that were made by the Talisman Foundation and Section 27. So I wonder if you found the Gauteng Health Department's answers to that satisfactory. Let's listen in.
Good day, SAfm and listeners. I just want to comment about this Life Esidimeni incident. That is not an isolated incident. That is what is happening at our public hospitals and clinics on a daily basis, especially in our black communities, where nurses treat people badly, giving attitude as if we force them to apply for that job. Government must take this issue very serious before big something happen.
Yeah, and I think it's real.
This is some device in Cape Town.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I think it's real. I mean, the report, this is an unconfirmed report, and I must be clear on that, because the Talisman Foundation and Section 27 are telling us that it happened. But if it's true that patients were essentially shaken down, they were taken into a hall and they were clinically assessed there without the proper supervision of the treatment team, that some of them are asked to remove their clothing and that kind of thing. If that's true, it's extremely disturbing, and I worry about the dignity of the patients in a situation like this. We're taking you further afield now. It is 10 minutes past 11 here on the Daily Discourse. And how many friends does American President Donald Trump have left abroad? Now, in recent weeks, several international leaders have signaled a schism between their countries and Trump. Longtime U.S. friend and neighbor Canada has increasingly been looking for new partners since Trump applied high tariffs against it. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has been open about not being drawn into Trump's war on Iran. European leaders like Emmanuel Macron and Spanish leader Pedro Sanchez have taken a hard stance against the US more recently, and surprisingly, so has Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, who used to be a Trump fan. That is not to speak of the Pope, who's been open in his criticism of America's war on Iran. Veteran US diplomat and political analyst Brooks Spector joins us now with some analysis. Good morning and welcome to the program, Brooks. There may be an underlying wariness of Trump during the first few months of his second term in office, but he still seemingly had allies when he took power. What has changed in the ensuing months?
Well, good morning, Joanne. First, let me just mention I'm no longer a diplomat, haven't been for 23 years, so I don't speak for any government. Let me just make that clear for anybody who might have been worrying about that. And second, welcome back to the airwaves.
Why, thank you. Lovely to be able to interview you again.
But with regard to your question, I think there are a couple of factors going on. One was the absolutely mercurial back and forth switching this way and that the Trump administration has seen to be carrying out with regard not just a conflict with Iran, but across a whole range of things, and more than say questioning the utility and importance of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, which the allies in Western Europe all belong to, or their countries all belong to. The fact that he was positively denigrating that relationship, as well as the relationship with Canada and the relationship with numerous other societies, all in an effort to apparently to bludgeon them into agreeing to do whatever it was he thought he wanted to do at the moment that he thought of it. And, for institutions and nations that crave stability and long-run arrangements, this has become a total anathema. And the allies still believe that they are aligned and allied with the U.S., but they are definitely no longer aligned with Donald Trump.
It's strange that we're seeing both individuals and entities who clearly identify as right-wing turning their backs on Trump. I mentioned Giorgia Meloni. There's also the far-right Alternative for Germany. And of course, when Vice President J.D. Vance tries to bolster the right-wing Hungarian leader Viktor Orban's campaign, Orban loses. What's behind that?
Well, there is a thread in the Trump administration, or at least in the mind of Donald John Trump, that the untrammeled, untouched of democracy, there's something wrong with it somehow. It doesn't allow him to sort of issue diktats that will just naturally fall in line. Somebody like Viktor Orban had spent, 15, 16 years trying to create the impression that what he called illiberal democracy was the path to the future. And Donald Trump seems to have, despite all the reasoning and evidence going the other direction, this affection for the way in which Vladimir Putin runs his enterprise. And by extension, then, being warmly embracing AfD in Germany and Marine Le Pen in France and others of that style, it seems to just be a natural outcome of the way he thinks about the way the United States should be run, and that's a little frightening in its own way, isn't it?
Indeed. I mean, the Pope isn't really considered an overtly political figure, but he does have a constituency of 1.4 billion Catholics globally. And there were some reports that went as far as to say there wasn't just a spat between Trump and the Pope. The US administration had actually threatened the Vatican behind closed doors. I mean, how do you read that disagreement?
Well, I mean, one of the things that surprised me most was the Vice President, J.D. Vance, is a fairly recent convert to Catholicism, and my understanding of Catholicism is not full and complete, certainly, but I work on the assumption that a good Catholic is someone who accepts the moral authority, the religious authority of the incumbent Pope, and feels at ignored that. And the fact that Vance lectured, in effect, publicly lectured his Pope that he needs to brush up on his theology and that he needs to understand a little better about the concept of the just war, which is something that St. Augustine put forward, 1,700 years ago, 1,600 years ago, and the Augustinian order in Catholicism, which the current Pope came out of. You'd think he had a fairly good idea of theology and what constitutes the quote-unquote the idea of a just war, and that J.D. Vance really is not in a position to be lecturing the Pope on this. They disagree with him, but then that makes him less of a good Catholic in good standing, I guess. I'm dumbstruck by the idea that you pick a snit fight with the leader of a religion that has almost 1.5 billion people as adherents, many of whom, and an increasing number of whom, are in the third world, what we used to call the third world, Africa, certain parts of Asia, and Latin America. This seems to be just perfectly set up to lessen the influence of the United States rather than strengthen it.
So I must ask you, in the long term, I mean, we're seeing some of the US's former friends, like Canada, virtually run into the arms of America's contenders, like China. The kind of relationships that are now being damaged go back a very long time. And even if a new administration takes over from the Trump administration at some stage, how easy will it be to win back those old friends, to rebuild the alliances, to re-establish the economic partnerships that were broken during this administration's tenure?
Well, I mean, let me make one distinction or differentiation. The discord is less with the sense of America as a society and a nation, and more with the incumbent president and his administration. I mean, Canadians have been telling us and the rest of the world that they're no longer going to buy American bourbon and Tucky sipping whiskey, but the moment Donald Trump moves along and another administration comes in, and presumably one that is more attuned to these things, the Canadians may well return to drinking that particular brand. An American cultural output, although some people will denigrate it. People watch American films, people read American books, and people listen to American music almost regardless of who the president is. So my distinction's always between what a government says versus what happens in a society writ large. And I do think that it is possible to pick up those threads and reweave them more effectively with a different administration. But it will be hard because there are suspicions that it could revert the way Trump led it again, rather than just a sort of an automatic acceptance of things the way they were up until Mr. Trump became president the first time around. And that, I think, is going to be a very hard slog.
Veteran U.S. diplomat and political analyst Brooks Spector, good talking to you. Thanks for those insights.
My pleasure. You can call anytime you want, Joanne.
Missed your favorite SABC education program on SABC Radio? With SABC Plus, you can catch up on all your favorite SABC education programs anytime and anywhere. On your phone, simply open the SABC Plus app, tap on demand, select radio, find SABC Education, select the podcast of your choice, and press play. Or if you're on your computer, visit the SABC Plus website, www.sabcplus.com. Click on demand, choose radio, scroll to the SABC Education podcast section, select the podcast of your choice, and press play. It's simple, convenient, and always available when you are. Brought to you by the SABC Education. Enriching minds, enriching lives.
The Daily Discourse. More than talk, real understanding.
20 minutes past 11 here on the Daily Discourse. And here's a feel-good story. Could the fastest internet connection in the world come straight out of Joburg? Well, that's looking more and more possible. A professor at Wits University, Andrew Forbes, is in the process of trying to build the world's fastest internet. Let's find out how he's doing it. Founder of the Structured Light Laboratory at Wits, Professor Andrew Forbes, joins us now. Good morning to you, Professor Forbes. I'm going to ask you to be very patient because you're talking to a technophobe right now. But welcome to the program. This sounds hugely exciting. How fast do you imagine your internet will be? Prof, do we have you on the line? It appears we're having a problem with our line to Professor Andrew Forbes. But wouldn't this be the most exciting thing if the fastest internet came out of South Africa? I mean, it looks as though this is something that they have been working on for a while at Wits University. You know, increasingly universities are moving into a space where research has become foremost. And there is great competition among the South African universities to ensure that their research facilities are among the best on the continent, and that affects their rankings, obviously, internationally. And so I'm always excited when I hear these sorts of things. It seems as though we have managed to get the professor on the line. Good morning to you, Professor Andrew Forbes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Joanne, I heard everything you said, but for some reason it's died on us, which is probably one of the reasons we want to make things better, right?
Precisely. Case in point. So, Dr. Forbes, tell us about this exciting news. How fast are you hoping your internet facility, your project, is actually going to be?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I mean, the keyword is trying, and what we have in our lab is some demonstrations of what this technology can do. Right now, the basis of how it works is that we want to get many different patterns of light. Just think of pictures of lights, and each one is carrying information. The same information as our present bandwidth. And so you can see that if we've got 100 patterns to work, we have 100 times the present bandwidth. In our lab, we can create simultaneously a couple of hundred of these patterns at once.
So how does the data actually travel? Is it through a physical cable?
Well, it can be through a physical cable. I mean, today all of our networks are glass or fiber optics.
Right.
But if you think of things like Starlink, or even the satellites out there, we also communicate by satellites. So it can be through air, or it can down glass and fiber optics. Those patterns should work in both those mediums.
Since you've mentioned Starlink, I might as well ask you, why is Starlink not, for example, getting the same kind of speeds as your application, if it works on the same principle?
No, it's a great question. And in fact, the Starlink system and even the light that we send on fiber optic today, what they both have in common is that they're modulated. That means they're kind of the way the information is put into them is in the same way. But most importantly, in the context of what we do, it's a single pattern of light. You know, when we speak about optical fibers, we don't tell you that the technical term is single mode fiber. This means a fiber that carries a single pattern. Starlink also uses a single pattern. It would be like holding your laser pointer and shining the light. If you look at it, it's just one pattern that's coming out. We want to put hundreds of patterns in there. And that's why we can increase the bandwidth even of those systems.
All right. So, Professor Forbes, is your research at a theoretical stage, or does it already have a practical application?
It's very practical. We have it demonstrated in the lab. What we're ironing out are some technical challenges. So, for instance, how do we make the fiber carry all these patterns? So that requires the fiber optics people to do their part to make the fibers that can carry the information. And the problem with patterns, of course, everything has a downside. The problem is that pictures or patterns, they get distorted. If your listeners just think of looking at a hot road on a summer's day, you see that shimmering effect. Well, the same thing happens to the light that we send with information. The shimmering is like a distortion. So how do we make the light distortion free? So we're the world leaders at that. We're pushing it really hard, and as soon as we crack these two fundamental problems, we can deploy the technology.
And when do you imagine the technology will be deployed?
We're trying to partner with all the comms people to see it accelerate. Mm-hmm. Right now, we have some test beds in our lab and out in the real world, so we would hope that in the next few years we can do that. In parallel, we have a national quantum strategy in South Africa, and we want to put a secure layer on top of all of this. And there we've promised the government that within 5 years, we will have a quantum network that we can demonstrate to the private sector.
Very interesting indeed. Are there limitations to the amount of data you can transmit using this system, Prof?
Yes, there are. So, we do these kind of what I would call the back of the envelope calculation. This means like a very simple calculation on what is possible and what is not possible. And if your listeners imagine a little laser pointer shining on their hand, and imagine you take like a 1 millimeter by 1 millimeter square of that light, and you ask the question, how much information can I pack into a square millimeter of light? It turns out it's about 1 million patterns. There is a limit to what you can do, but this limit is so large that for our purposes, that means what we want to do in this world, all our internet and YouTube videos and whatever we like to do with our communications, it's very, very high, way beyond what we would need.
Right. So who would benefit most from accessing these kind of speeds? Is it primarily for industrial use or government use?
So, the data needs of the planet are scaling exponentially. Just think about AI. It's not just the machines that run the AI, but people want to log onto them and move data around. There's enormous learning taking place. This means the data we move around is exponentially increasing. So we know that there is a data crunch coming. We can see it in the rate at which we're needing data and the rate at which we're increasing the speed of things. They're not quite matched. So this idea of using patterns of light, it's definitely the next frontier and it's definitely needed. I think what's more important is the secure layer that goes on top of it.
Yes.
We don't just want things to be fast, we want it to be fundamentally secure.
So I was going to ask you about that. How do you ensure your application is more secure than what currently exists? And we have this constant fear that the criminal's always one step ahead of us. How do you ensure that in the future you don't prevent your encryption security from being breached?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the way our modern security works today, it's based on what I would call mathematical complexity. Basically what that means is that we imagine a problem that's really hard to solve. It will take the criminals a long time to crack it. So while you do online banking, you're basically safe. The problem is that if we have a working quantum computer, these machines can solve those types of problems in real time. So we know that there is a horizon. How far away is it? No one knows, but it could be 5 years, it could be 10 years, but it's coming, and that will break all our encryption systems. So we know for a fact that we have to address this threat. In the US, big agencies like NIST are trying to make what they call post-quantum algorithms that would have different types of mathematical problems that are harder to solve. We are using quantum as part of the solution. So quantum physics lets you encrypt information in a way that is fundamental. It's not based on machines, it's not based on math, it's based on the laws of physics.
It's fascinating. It sounds like very expensive research to fund, Prof. How exactly are you paying for this?
Yeah, that's a wonderful opportunity for me to thank our sponsors, I guess. We have a national quantum strategy, and that's funded directly by our Department of Science, Technology and Innovation. So it's not only our lab, but several labs around the country, in Stellenbosch, in Cape Town, in Durban, Zululand, all driving towards this quantum future. We also have a project funded in the same direction by the Oppenheimer Memorial Trust. We're a very visionary society looking for excellence that can change paradigms, and we're very fortunate to have them supporting us too.
So we have some of the finest minds working in this country. I think we've just spoken to one of them, founder of the Structured Light Laboratory at WITS, Professor Andrew Forbes, joining us to tell us this technology will hopefully be available within a period of 5 years. Exciting times. Right now, we are going to take a break and we're going to go to your latest news headlines with Ondela Mbana.
Thank you, Joanne. On the news headlines, suspended Tshwane Chief Officer Gareth Mnisi has struggled to support his testimony before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry in Pretoria. Alleged criminal cartel member Vusimuzi Ketmatlala is to remain at the Hoshi Maximum Security Prison in Pretoria for consultations until the 13th of next month. This follows the Pretoria Magistrates Court order And a handful of DA supporters are protesting outside the Boksburg Magistrate Court, where suspended Ekurhuleni Metropolitan Police Department Deputy Chief Julius Mkhwanazi is expected to appear. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
The Daily Discourse on SAfm, weekday mornings from 9 to 12.
11:30 here on the Daily Discourse. Thank you for those updates on Dela. And of course, we continue to bring you updates here on the Daily Discourse. And some of those updates are coming directly from you. We love to hear from you on our voice note line, our WhatsApp line, 0614 104 107. Our studio line is 086 000 2032. Excuse me. All right, so the Madlanga Commission is well underway in Pretoria, started around 9:30 this morning. And of course, at this time every day, we bring you an update of the happenings there. Suspended Tshwane CFO Gareth Mnisi has been back on the stand today. You know that he started testifying last week. And today, he's come under scrutiny over his interactions with Fani Nkosi, the sergeant who actually happens to be in court right now applying for bail, after Nkosi sent him a list of 7 companies in March last year, referring to them as our vehicles for land. Now, 2 of those companies were later awarded a municipal security tender that was despite evidence that they were not compliant with bid requirements. Mnisi maintains he's played no role in the awarding of that tender. The Commission is also focused on WhatsApp exchanges, showing that Sergeant Nkosi repeatedly asked Mr. Mnisi to check compliance for tender TMPD 01 2024-25. Mnisi insists he told Nkosi telephonically that he could not assist because the tender had already closed, and he claims he eventually ignored the requests out of frustration. But the Commission has actually challenged this version. They pointed to messages where Mnisi thanked Nkosi, engaged on the list, and even suggested a meeting, raising doubts about his claim that he disengaged. Mnisi argued he was merely entertaining Nkosi to avoid conflict, despite his growing annoyance, and he said Nkosi was just trying his luck. He was also questioned about buying Nkosi a gift, which he admitted, but strongly denied it was linked to any tender influence. He said there was no inducement, no favour, and no corruption. The Commission continues to probe whether Mnisi's conduct may have enabled or encouraged improper involvement in a tender process that was linked to a broader contract that was worth billions of rands. So that is what is happening at the Madlanga Commission in Pretoria as we speak. Advocate Matthew Chaskelson currently acting as evidence leader there. Right, we are taking you some of your voice notes at this hour as well, taking some of your calls. And one of you has been commenting very, very appropriately, as we've just spoken about the Madlanga Commission, on the lifestyle of police.
It's a man, the listener. You know what I'm asking myself about is like those people who are working at the police at the at the Metropolis, all of them, like, you know, just after they've been like employed, then their life changes. They afford everything, you know, driving like the car. So you just ask yourself how much they earn. But the people like us as a civilian, we're working so hard, but it's very hard for us to afford like a lot of things in life.
Yeah, but Leila, I feel the same way. I mean, you have to ask yourself that. And yeah, I was thinking about it actually when we were doing the gangsterism interview on Friday. Was it Thursday or Friday? But I was thinking to myself, you know, you wonder why young people become involved in crime. They look at everything that criminals have, or that alleged criminals have, people who appear to have criminal ties. All of a sudden, you know, they're living well beyond their means. They're driving really expensive cars. They're dressing in beautiful, expensive, trendy clothes. They're living in these exquisite, large houses. And you ask yourself, how can they afford that? And the young people among us are seeing that the people who work really hard, like their parents and the other people in their community, living very average and ordinary lives. And there you have people living well beyond their means. They must be doing something untoward in order to achieve that. And so you find many young people actually wanting to follow that lifestyle because, you know, they're aspirational. They want to grow. They don't want to live under the same conditions their parents have lived, nor do they want to struggle in the same way their parents have for so many decades.
Good morning, Joanne. I'm going to be short and sharp. On this Malema saga, can we please stop saying South Africans? You have your own opinion, I have my own opinion. So on this saga, let us agree to disagree. That's all what I want to say. Let's agree to disagree. Stop saying South Africans. No. Speak your own opinion. Let me speak my own opinion. And that's all.
Yeah, and we're all entitled to those different opinions, and I suppose that's what makes our conversation so interesting. TK in Nelspruit, Nisi at Madlanga, you've been following this. What are your thoughts on this, TK?
Hello, SAfm. It's my first call. Thank you for taking my call.
Well, thank you for calling in. We're delighted to have you, TK. I hope you'll be a regular.
No, I'll be a regular, yes.
Great.
Yeah. Okay, I just want to pose a question. I hope, and I know it's not possible, that Commissioner Madlanga will be listening right now. There's a question asked at the commission to say, why is you, Mr. Faningosi, sending a picture of that 2 million baki to the CFO, only to realize later that he has got a pool of nearly 16 million worth of cars at his house? I didn't even know Nisi, I didn't know Dlamini at that moment, but when he was now being arrested or being suspended, we ended up knowing that he has got a pool of cars. So actually, Faningos wanted the CFO to buy him that car that he said my brother also was looking for a baki. And then Commissioner Baloyi asked the question and say, why were you specifically sending this red baki to him, the 2 million baki? And the question didn't even was not answered at that particular moment. So now you can see how all this thing is linking up. I think I can rest my case on that one.
DK, thank you for that. And thank you for keeping an eye on Madlanga for us. It's very exciting what is happening there. And I think we're all a little relieved to see that there's some action on what is coming out of the Commission. Thank you for that call. Many of you still talking about the RAF and that Supreme Court ruling. I think we're going to talk in a little bit more detail about that in the coming days, because I think we need to go back to the crux of how it came about that the Supreme Court of Appeal decided that everybody in this country, whether they are here illegally or whether they have papers, is entitled to an RAF settlement if their case is found to be legitimate. Let's listen to your voice notes on that issue.
Good day, SFA team. On the road accident fund, where does the money come from? Does the money come from the fuel levy or it comes to the government straight? Because the issue of foreigners, I think there's an issue of misunderstanding there. And we need to face the reality. There's no African countries without a foreigner. But if the foreigner comes in, then he obeys the laws of South Africa. He's paying taxi, he's buying fuel. So I think he deserves it.
Morning, my sister. My point is on road accident fund. The fact of the matter is road accident fund is contributed by whoever buys fuel, diesel or petrol on the pump. So whether you are a foreigner coming in for 2 minutes or going out, or you are here for 10 years, as long as you go to the pump, you contribute to road accident fund. Now, if somebody starts to say that it's our money, then let be a legislation which says no to any contribution over road accident fund on the pump. Problem solved.
All right, thank you for that. Let's take a short break and we'll continue listening to your voice notes in a moment.
SABC2 is doing big things, and that's why I am here. I'm talking new shows, fresh energy, and stories that are going to move you. Pimville is just the beginning. I am Mandla Gaduka. Catch me Monday to Friday at 9 p.m. Live in every beat, the pulse of SA.
No one gets fit overnight. It takes discipline, and your money is no different. A Nedbank 32-day notice account helps you build financial strength with up to 7.3% interest and zero maintenance fees. The higher the deposit, the higher the return. Invest in under 2 minutes on the Money app and get money fit with Nedbank. For more information, go to nedbank.co.za. See money differently. Nedbank, we're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Based upon what we know, for example, different political parties expressing themselves, there's grounds now for an impeachment. Do you think that is pushing the boundaries too far?
Well, it seems like, having regard to the fact that Parliament itself commissioned a commission to investigate that, and they took a decision not to proceed with that type of approach. What we should not lose focus on is that there must be some requirements met for people to persuade us that there's wrongdoing. I don't think the public will protect anybody if there's wrongdoing.
Modidima Mania, the advocate and legal analyst.
Ashraf Garda on SAfm.
Call SAfm now on 086 000 2032.
Yeah, that's right. Just after 11:41, and we're taking your calls. Sipho in Viking is on the line to us. You've got the RAF on your mind, Sipho. Hi. Sipho, we are struggling to hear you. Okay, I'm going to move on to our next call. Khabarone in Middelburg.
Foreigners have been calling.
Hi there. Is it Sipho?
No, it's
Khabarone. Sorry, Khabarone. I wasn't quite sure who had come onto the line. Sorry about that. But go ahead with what you were going to say, Khabarone. Thank you.
Yes, I wanted to say, we're discussing the road accident fund, and we are on the ground as the people, the general populace, especially the voting people. Mm-hmm. We are crying about the illegal foreigners. Illegal, please underline that.
Yes.
Illegal foreigners who are subjecting us to crime, criminality, and a whole lot of wrong things. And there's no one who's listening, who's giving an ear to us as South Africans. The media people, right now, you're giving airtime as a presenter on SAfm. It's only foreigners who are talking, discussing our issues. When are we going to enjoy the freedom as South Africans, especially, the poor people on the ground? When do we enjoy this freedom?
So are you, Khabarone, are you foreign or are you from South Africa?
I'm South African.
Okay, so you're an example of people we give a voice to. I don't know where you get the statistic from that most people who call into the show are not from the country.
Today, I'm talking about today on your show, from since in the morning.
Look,
from Bramoro is the legal in South Africa. The rest, I do not know. I can't comment. But it's like they're the ones who are giving airtime to, they even opposing the road accident funds. They giving their views. All that.
So
and unfortunately, you privileged people are the ones who are supporting them. You don't live the lived reality of South Africans on the ground. It is wrong.
So firstly,
you don't even give the listeners the chance to voice their opinions. Everybody was talking to you earlier from Limpopo about this road accident fund issue. It was all about you. We're listening to you. Yes, you are conducting these interviews, you are chairing them or you are controlling them. But listen to other people's views as well.
Well, we're listening to your views to start off with. For starters, we've had a lot of people phone in this morning and say that they're upset about foreigners having access, right? Did you hear our calls this morning on the show, Khabarone?
2 callers before me now.
Yeah.
2 callers are foreigners. And another thing, it's because you're privileged people. You cannot distinguish, you do not know the difference between us South Africans and the foreigners. And even worse,
look,
when we talk, we have a problem with foreigners. We only say illegal foreigners.
Because we have to make that distinction, right? Some people are in the country legally and some people are not.
I've worked with foreigners. I have a passport. We travel. When I go to foreign countries, I have to make sure that everything about me is in order.
Yes, that's the right thing to do.
Of these countries whenever they host me.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is the right thing to do. That is absolutely the right thing to do. But we have taken calls from people who share your opinion very, very widely, and it hasn't only been people that we don't selectively take calls.
Today.
Well, I'm sorry, but you're wrong. You're wrong. You know, we have actually taken calls from a range of people today, and I'm so sorry that I've got to cut you off because we have to go to an ad break, and we are doing our book reading today. So unfortunately, we are ending the show on this note where Gaborone is very upset. But let's continue the conversation tomorrow, and let's keep talking, and let's make sure we give everyone a chance here on the Daily Discourse. Thank you for joining us. I'm Joanne Joseph. We'll do it all again at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning.
You can become a victim of a legal problem: wrongful arrest, assault, uncontested divorce, rental disputes, maintenance matters, or labor problems. It can happen to you. Clientele Legal provides tough professional lawyers for an affordable monthly premium. Our legal team is standing by to assist you 24 hours a day. Join today. SMS SAfm to 32195. That's SAfm to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
SAfm presents another episode of the book Turning Passion into Profit by Jabu Stone, read by Samson Komalo. Please note that the views expressed in this book are not that of the station. Listeners' discretion is advised.
The benefits associated with being first in the market include the following: easy recognition. Once people know you as the pioneer, you become unforgettable. Anything that comes after you is associated with you. Having dealt with natural hair and the associated products for over 20 years, my name has become synonymous with locks and natural hair. I'm called Mr. Dreads. And as much as I don't like the nickname, I embrace and appreciate it as I know it comes from a good place. I started the locks phenomenon, or rather, I changed the way people look at locks in South Africa. Dreads, as they are commonly known, were considered dirty, and people who had them were immediately put in their marijuana box. But the minute I revolutionized how people viewed dreads, all things changed. You are a leader. Once your product or service becomes recognizable and the market buys into it, followers will come easily. Everyone will want to be like you and do things the way you are doing them. Some people will even want to be you. Being the leader means you have the chance to build your own market, although it comes with a lot of patience. Today, over 20 years after I started out, things are changing quickly in the natural hair care business. More and more women are embracing their natural look and opting for locks. With this, the demand for natural hair care products like mine keep growing. Since I have been around for a long time, my followers are growing, and other manufacturers are looking to copy what I do. Yes, they analyze your product, they check your strengths and weaknesses. Big established manufacturers are always checking to see what is new in the market. With unlimited budget at their disposal, they present you with strong challenges. There is never a comfort zone in business, so don't stop being innovative. You are always on your toes. Because you have done it first, you get the opportunity to always lead with your product or service. Since my first dreadlocks hair product, Jabu Stone Molding Cream, hit the market, my range of natural hair care product has grown to more than 10, and it will continue to grow. I can't afford to slow down. I listen to my customer suggestions and their product needs and work at providing a solution. Whatever other types of hair products there are, I always have to make sure that natural hair is equally well catered for. With my technical team, I continue to visit hair salons and give hair product demonstrations around the country and around the continent to amplify the usage of the product. Reflections. Getting in first is hard work. Be prepared to spend sleepless nights and face a lot of challenges. But the rewards are just as incredible as long as you are patient. Chapter 5. Act like the success you intend being. Understanding what it really means. You must be the person you have never been. Gradually, you will discover that you are that person, but until you can see this clearly, you must pretend and invent. Paulo Coelho. As an entrepreneur, the concept of fake it until you make it is not foreign. A lot of entrepreneurs adopt this motto for various reasons. Although the tactics applied might differ from person to person, the motive for doing it should be based on honesty. Faking it does not imply that you misrepresent yourself, your values, or your product. Some people will buy expensive clothes, drive expensive cars, live in expensive houses, and even eat at the most expensive restaurants using borrowed money, making everyone believe that they can afford everything they supposedly own. In my view, this is a very skewed way of applying the concept. In contrast, a person looking for a job might convince a panel of interviewers that she is the right person for the job when she knows for a fact that she is clueless about the task. However, when she is hired, she does everything she can to ensure she acquires the necessary skills. As an entrepreneur, you have to plan your approach and execute it tactically by being resourceful. As the saying goes, at the end of the day, it's not about having resources. It's about being resourceful. Dress and walk like a successful business person, even though most of the time you are very far from it. This does not mean getting yourself into debt by buying expensive clothes, but rather ensuring that you always dress appropriately for the industry you are in. How you dress speaks volumes even before you utter a single word. Ooze confidence, but not arrogance. No one wants to do business with a person who doesn't show confidence. Express your ambition so that other people buy into it. There are many ways of doing this. I've heard that Steve Jobs of Apple Inc. opened a post box in Silicon Valley even before he had an office there. He knew that by doing so, he would be taken seriously. He went one step further. He was able to finance his new company by securing a purchase order from the owner of a technology shop in California for 50 computers that had yet to be built. You might think, isn't that fraud or unethical practice? Different people will judge that in different ways. In my opinion, the difference between a fraudster and an entrepreneur is that an entrepreneur has every intention of delivering, and he does. If he doesn't, then he is indeed a fraudster. Tactics do not have to be so extreme. For a one-man business, instead of always saying I when you speak about your business, use we. This will give the impression that you work with a team. Most companies don't want to work with a one-man show. I adopted a tactic that was not conventional but helped me a lot. I was confident that one day my idea would take off, and I wanted my customers to believe in me and my product. So every time I rejected a customer who wanted to straighten their hair, I did so with the utmost confidence. There was no room for compromise. Even though sometimes I needed the money, I did not give up on my passion. My focus was not on money. I understood that money would come as the result of my hard work. Sometimes you need to become creative in your approach, like the time when I had gone back over and over again to one particular cosmetic store requesting that they carry my product. After numerous rejections, I came up with a very creative way of approaching them. I asked my friends to go to that store and ask for Jabu Stone products, even though I knew that store did not stock my product, and I didn't even have the range I do now. I was only selling my molding cream from the boot of my car and at my salon. My friends were willing participants who went into the store to inquire about the product while I waited for them outside to hear the response. When they came back saying they had not been successful, I asked them to relay to me word for word what had happened. They obliged. I realized that the reason the plan had failed was because they had not asked for their product by name. We corrected that oversight and they went back asking for their product by name. This time the response was a bit more promising. Because they had asked for the product by name, the owner of the store had listened to them and remembered my many visits. After the pretend product demand, I walked past the cosmetic store, making sure the owner saw me. He called me inside and asked if I could deliver 6 units of my molding cream, which I did. This kind of business depends on volume, but I guess he didn't want to carry a lot of stock that might just gather dust. It was too risky. It didn't matter to me at the time, though. I was just happy that my product was finally available at the store with more visibility. There was, however, one problem. Just as there were customers asking for my product, there had to be customers buying it. After the delivery, I asked my friends to go to the store to buy back the product. I purposely kept away for about 2 weeks while they went to the store daily asking for molding cream. Afterwards, I visited the store owner to check how my product was performing. He was not impressed with me one bit. He told me he was losing sales of molding cream because of me. He had been looking for me to place more orders, but I was nowhere to be found. That was good news. I had managed to create product demand and convince the store to carry my product. I then requested that my product be placed on a gondola, which did not cost me a cent. A gondola in a store or supermarket is a product shelf placed in specific places to create more product visibility. In retail, you pay good money for a gondola, depending on where you are allocated space. Once the cosmetic store started carrying my product, it was easier to tell customers where to find it instead of calling me to deliver.
That was another episode of the book, Turning Passion into Profit by Jabu Stone, read by Samson Khumalo. The book is available online on www.kmmr.co.za, KMMR Publishers, and all leading bookstores countrywide. It is broadcast on SAfm at 11:45 Monday to Thursday on the Daily Discourse. It is produced for the station by Vovi Patala, read by Samson Khumalo. Production, Nanda Koza, Wiseman Manngele, and Tato Mapurum.
Do great solutions start with good conversation? SAfm, leading the conversations that move us.
SAfm has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za. SAfm 104 to 107 nationwide. Leading the conversation.
12 o'clock on Monday, the 20th of April 2026. A warm welcome to Updated News here on SAfm. Leading the conversation, I'm Sakina Kamendo. Coming up in the next hour,
Sergeant Kose and I engaged on a number of matters, and some of those engagements was as a result of the friendship relationship that we had developed over time.
the suspended Tshwane Chief Financial Officer Gareth Mnisi is before the Madlanga Commission, and he's told the Commission that he is good friends with Sergeant Fani Nkosi. Please share your views with us. 41391 is the SMS line number. You'll be charged R1.50 per SMS. You can also write to us via X at SABC News_radio, or you can send us a WhatsApp voice note on 082-692-3909. Well, these and more stories coming up on this Monday edition of Updated Noon. First, though, is the latest news with Onde Lambana.
Thank you, Sakina. On the top stories, IDEC welcomes court's order on Kat Matlala, and Gareth Mnisi continues with his testimony at the Madlanga Commission. For SAfm News, I am Onde Lambana, and a very good day. The Investigating Directorate Against Corruption, IDEC, has welcomed the order of the Pretoria Magistrate Court that alleged criminal kingpin Vusimuzi Kat Matlala should remain at Mampuru Maximum Security Prison. Both the state and the defence requested that Matlala stay there pending consultations. He faces fraud and corruption charges alongside 12 police officers of a 360 million rand SAPS tender he was awarded in June 2024. Matlala appeared in court alone and is expected back on the 13th of next month with his co-accused, IDEC spokesperson Henry Mamutame.
We want these consultations to be completed. Hence, we also requested that he remain in Pretoria so that consultations may be completed without having to always travel to pick him up from KZN back to Pretoria. So we are happy that the court has granted that request. Hence, he will remain in Mampuru as consultations are completed.
Meanwhile, Sergeant Fani Nkosi's legal representative, Advocate Sizo Dlali, says there's no evidence that the dockets found during a raid at his client's Pretoria North home were stolen. Dlali has argued in the Pretoria North Magistrates Court that the dockets were part of the information that was said to have been centralized following the National Police Commissioner Fani Masemula's directive. Nkosi is back in court for his bail application. Rafila Mekwa reports.
Nkosi has previously told the court that he could only afford 10,000 rand bail. He was arrested during a raid at his home earlier this month, where police reportedly found 7 firearms, state-owned ammunition, and 6 dockets. The controversial sergeant faces charges including theft, defeating the ends of justice, and unlawful possession of ammunition and explosives. His defense team has also argued that his arrest and charges has got nothing to do with evidence that he provided at the Madlanga Commission. The case continues. Refilo Mekwa, SABC News, Pretoria.
Suspended Tshwane Chief Officer Gareth Mnisi has struggled to support his testimony before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry in Pretoria. Mnisi said that he had ignored suspended Police Organised Crime Unit member Fani Nkosi's request to certify the compliance of 7 companies that he had sent him. But evidence presented before the Commission shows that Nkosi sent the list to Mnisi to manipulate the tender process. The Commission's chairperson, Justice Mbuyiseli Madlanga, maintains that Mnisi was cooperating with Nkosi despite saying he had no powers to check compliance.
I want to suggest to you that you were actually cooperating with Sergeant Nkosi. And when the names were given a second time, probably during the telephone calls, you had asked for the names again. And now he's giving you names so that there may be an award, and that award should be in accordance with should be in the sort of priority that is listed on here, on that second last text.
The embattled Mfuleni local municipality in the Vaal has allegedly spent nearly 24 million rand on paying suspended employees. That's according to Gauteng Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs MEC Jacob Mamabulu, who responded to a question from the DA in the Gauteng legislature. Mamabulu said that an accountant who has been on suspension since 2019 received close to 6 million rand. The municipality has been battling to provide basic services such as water and sanitation. Mfuleni DA mayoral candidate Kingsol Chabalala says this is total misuse of public funds.
This is a blatant failure of governance and accountability. At a time when residents are struggling with poor service delivery and failing infrastructure, millions are being wasted on unresolved disciplinary process with no sense of agency. It is evident that the current ANC-led administration is negligent and incapable of effectively presiding over Mfuleni.
Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian says every diplomatic path should be used to try to reduce tensions with the U.S. He, however, says that Tehran needs vigilance in its interactions with Washington. The Iranian president was speaking as Pakistan is preparing to host more talks between Iran and the U.S. Recapping the top story, the Investigating Directorate Against Corruption, IDEC, has welcomed the order of the Pretoria Magistrate Court that alleged criminal kingpin Vusimuzi Matlala should remain at Hoshimampuru Maximum Security Prison. I'm Wanda Lambana for SAfm News Headlines at 12:30.
Update at noon with Sakina Kamwendo, midday to 1 p.m. Update at noon with Sakina Kamwendo.
Well, a very good afternoon. Thanks so much, Onde Lambana. It's 7 minutes after 12. Thanks for being with us here on Updated Noon. Keeping a keen eye on what's happening, especially at the Madlanga Commission. But we also have Sergeant Fani Nkosi, who continued his bail application in the Pretoria North Magistrates Court today. And Nkosi's bail judgment will be delivered on Wednesday, as we understand. And then, of course, in the city of Ekurhuleni, the suspended Ekurhuleni Metro Police Deputy Chief Julius Mkhwanazi and another senior municipal official appeared in the Boksburg Magistrates Court today. They face charges of fraud, corruption and defeating and obstructing the ends of justice. Both arrested by the SAPS Madlanga task team, and this was over the weekend. And Mkhwanazi was arrested at his home on Saturday, while the additional suspects was arrested at his home in Johannesburg. And we will, of course, keep an eye on those developments for you. But at the moment, also listening in on the testimony at the Madlanga Commission of the suspended City of Tshwane Chief Financial Officer, Gareth Mnisi. But let's take a quick break.
This Freedom Month, we reflect, we remember, and we celebrate how far we've come. 30 years into democracy, South Africa continues to shape a future grounded in justice, equality, and opportunity for all, under the theme Freedom and the Rule of Law. 30 years of democratic citizenship. SAfm will bring you all things freedom, the voices, the stories, and the conversations that matter. Join us as we honor the journey and explore what freedom means today. SAfm, leading the conversations that move us.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, unfair blacklisting, or an uncontested divorce, Clientele Legal offers professional legal services to all South Africans. Our plans are affordable, and you receive up to 745,000 Rand worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our nationwide legal teams are standing by to support you 24 hours a day. Plus, all plans include a 5,000 Rand bail benefit. Join today. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Sakina Kamwendo on SAfm.
Right, let's take you back now to the Madlanga Commission, and of course started on Friday, and Gareth Mnisi, who's the suspended City of Tshwane Chief Financial Officer, continuing his evidence before the Commission on day 93. Let's take you there.
Within this instance, we took note that Deputy Chief Dlamini was unfortunately not CC'd for whatever reason. However, the context of this discussion was that they need to follow the processes, ensure that everyone has got the necessary portfolio of evidence. He on his own cannot take the matter up. There are systems, there are internal controls, they must be observed. And that's how I understood this matter. Protocol must be observed. The city has established systems and controls to deal with this matter. It can't be dealt with by one person individually or another without demonstrating that I have been through this matter, I have followed up with these individuals. You can't jump a process when escalating matters that are outstanding, Chair. That's the context of that. So this is these individuals trying to use the back door to deal with this outstanding payment, whereas they're fully aware of the protocols that they had followed previously. So they need to follow those processes. Once I'm convinced that there's sufficient appropriate audit evidence and the team PD as well as supply chain management have either not dealt with this issue for whatever reasons, I can then take it forward. As is, there's nothing I can do. They need to deal with the relevant individuals within the portfolios.
But that's not what he's saying. He's saying they should go back where they have started Ku'umpuetu. That's you. He calls you Mpuetu in those conversations.
That's true.
They should go back where they have started with you. I said to them, in other words, you, are the only gateway. They can't go with a back door. I will only be able to assist if I get an indication from Ku'umpuetu, you. So he's saying, go back and speak to the CFO. He's the only gateway. Don't use me as a backdoor.
Spot on, Chair. And that's exactly what I'm explaining. So we are virtually on the same page. We just need to try and have consensus on the nature of event. Because the nature of event, I'm referring this and aligning this to the ex post facto payment, which is the true sequence of events of what occurred and what this discussion is emanating from. So as a result of them submitting the necessary portfolio of evidence, demonstrating that they've went through the entire value chain, they can't just go to him. Once I refer a matter to him, I need to also be convinced that they have a case, Chair, that needs to be answered to. First of all, we're sitting here on the 27th of March. The invoice that's outstanding is the 28th of June, for the previous financial year. That hadn't been captured in our accruals, it's not recognized in the system whatsoever. So the only way to have this matter fully exhausted upon is to formalize it accordingly, send the formal communications, submit the necessary portfolio of evidence in order to enable myself to test that and to test the legitimacy of the claim that they have on board. So that's the context of this discussion when I understood it then, and that's how I understand it now, Chair, because that's what was really going on in this instance.
I'm sorry, you're losing me here. On the 23rd, Deputy Chief Dlamini says to you, Kane and the Gubis guys want to meet. Must I meet with them? Must I not meet with them? I want direction from you. You say, through Sergeant Nkosi, meet with them and brief us of the outcomes, essentially. We're on the same page thus far.
The only place where we're not on the same page is you are reading that in isolation of page 144. And what I tried to ask the Commission to refer to on the 5th of March. You're reading that in isolation with that, which is what's causing you and I not to be on the same page. So if you go to page 144, on the 5th of March, there's a discussion here and there's a copy of an invoice that I'm sent. And the contents of this discussion is, this one is for the previous financial year. We'll engage later, Nomfuetu, with me on how we can address this in order to avoid post facto. So if we read this in conjunction with your later messages, we will then be on the same page. This is an invoice that could not and was not resolved upon when we were dealing with the ad hoc services invoice from Kubi Security Services. So as a result of this still not being paid, this entity is making a follow-up, Chair. They're claiming the city still owes them 397,000 Rand. Hence, they're making follow-ups after they had received the other payments for the other invoices. This one remained outstanding. So the context of that now ties together with 157 and 178 that you're presenting now.
What was the procedure that they should have followed in relation to this previous financial year invoice? As I understood it, it was they should first raise it with the TMPD.
Yes.
If they got no joy there, they should then raise it with supply chain management.
Yes.
If they got no joy there, they should escalate it to you. So you should be the last port of call, not the first. You should be the last port of call, not the first.
I think also what we need to add, Chair, is that during the escalation process, they need to demonstrate beyond reasonable doubt that this invoice is due and payable. Hence, I don't want us to leave the step that they needed to start within APSS first. And APSS needs to make a motivation now. So for me to even consider this, I would have to get the invoice from the service provider along with the motivation from APSS on why I should even think about considering an invoice from a previous financial year that is closed.
But you knew all of that on the 23rd. You knew that that was what the situation was.
Yes, I did, Chair.
And you said to Deputy Chief Dlamini, we won't meet with them